Chapter 1610. Ignoring Black Impermanence and White Impermanence. Longao looked at Liu Li in front of him and said with a smile, "Brother Liu Li, you're a smart man. I believe you can see the situation of the continent clearly. Brother Long, I believe you've heard what the two elders said just now." Of course, Liu Li would not choose to surrender. Even if the dragon sect was strong, could they be stronger than the Azura Palace? Could they be stronger than the 10-directional cauldron? What a joke. Forgive me for being blunt, but the dragon sect is not stronger than the Azura Palace. Rather than surrendering to you, I'd rather follow the Azura Palace. What do you think? So, you don't agree? That's right. If that's the case, then I'll take my leave. Longao did not stay any longer. He stood up and left. In just a moment, he had disappeared without a trace. Inside the main hall, the remaining three people were the master of the Liu Li sect, Liu Li, and the two elders, Black Impermanence and White Impermanence. "Master, the Azura Palace and Longao are eyeing us covetously. Although the dragon sect's strength is not that great, this person is still a problem." Liu Li nodded. "The Azura Palace has decided. Regardless of whether we agree or not, only death awaits us if we choose to surrender. Master, is there really no other way for us to go?" "There is. Go far away. Go far away." Was there anyone in the Liu Li sect who would be willing to do that? Not to mention the others, even Liu Li and the two elders would not be willing to do that. Otherwise, the three of them would not be so troubled. They would have disbanded the Liu Li sect and gone far away. Looks like we can only choose to cooperate with the Longao. Hearing their sect master's words, regardless of whether it was Black Impermanence or White Impermanence, the two elders were greatly shocked. That was because, in their opinion, since they were going to submit to the dragon sect, they might as well submit to the Azura Palace. How could Liu Li not understand the two elders' intentions? "Master." Waving his hand, Liu Li continued without waiting for the two elders to speak, "Let's wait and see. Since the Longao has found us, I believe the Longao will not let this go so easily. Since things were already like this, what else could the two of them say?" Outside the colored glass peak. "I'm so King unlucky to run into Longao." Xingdan did not expect to meet the legendary Longao at this moment. Otherwise, the Liu Li sect would have become a subsidiary sect of the Azura Palace. "Longao, I will make you regret this." Xingdan naturally knew about the grudge between Longao and the three superpowers. If news of Longao's arrival reached the three superpowers, he wouldn't even need to take action. Getting someone else to do the dirty work. "Xingdan, I really want to see how you will make me regret it." Looking at the figure that suddenly appeared in front of her, Xingdan was startled. He really came and went without a trace. Xingdan could not understand why Longao, who was only a peak stage god emperor, was so fast. It was so fast that it was slightly abnormal. Xingdan could not even see his figure clearly. Regardless of cultivation realm, in terms of speed alone, even he might not be a match for the other party. "Longao, let's mind our own business." "That's right, there is no grudge between us. However, I want to tell you one thing. Tell Xingdan that from today onwards, the Liu Li sect belongs to me, Longao. No matter who it is, don't even think about touching it. Or else, I will kill my way to the Azura Palace and kill everyone. With just you." Xingdan's face was filled with disdain. He had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen such an arrogant person. Both sides looked at each other. A great battle was about to break out. "Longao, don't think that you're invincible just because you have some strength. Today, I really want to see if the legendary Longao is really that powerful. Try it and you'll know." He took the initiative to attack. Longao knew that he could not defeat Xingdan due to the difference in their cultivation realms. However, he had already condensed the aura of the heavens and earth. It was impossible for Xingdan to kill him. Longao took a big stride forward and his body already scurried out. With the help of the spatial teleportation, Longao and his reincarnation avatar attacked Xingdan from the left and right respectively. As soon as he arrived, Longao launched his most ferocious attack. Wave after wave, surging violently. Xingdan was shocked. Xingdan did not expect that Longao would take the initiative to attack in this situation. Could it be that he was not a god emperor? Impossible. Xingdan believed in his senses. His opponent was definitely a god emperor, not a Nirvana realm warrior. Xingdan snorted coldly. I don't believe that I can't even defeat a god emperor warrior. Xingdan threw out a palm strike. As a Nirvana realm warrior, Xingdan's greatest strength was the aura of the heavens and earth. As long as he could form an absolute aura suppression, all warriors below the Nirvana realm would die in front of him. However, would aura suppression be useful? It might be useful against other warriors, but it was useless against Longao. The reason was simple. Longao had also condensed his own aura of the heavens and earth. Although it could not be compared to a true Nirvana realm warrior, it was almost impossible for Xingdan to suppress Longao with his aura alone. The two auras of the heavens and earth clashed violently, causing the aura to fluctuate. Aura of the heavens and earth. Impossible. Xingdan was extremely shocked when he sensed the aura of the heavens and earth released by his opponent. Under normal circumstances, even if Longao teamed up with his reincarnation avatar, they would not be a match for Xingdan. However, Xingdan was a little fearful now. His state of mind had changed, and the more he fought, the more he wanted to leave. After forcing his opponent back with a palm strike, Xingdan seized the opportunity and turned to leave. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. Longao did not chase after him. He was not as strong as his opponent. Even if he chased after him, what was the use? There were still 9 months left. As long as he stabilized his realm, he would be able to find an opportunity to officially step into the Nirvana realm. Longao was full of confidence. As long as he could achieve the Nirvana realm, killing and comprehending the heavens and earth would be a matter of minutes. Xingdan had fled. If this matter was spread out, no one would have believed it in the past. After all, a God Emperor martial artist was nothing in front of a Nirvana martial artist. Only Longao could be said to be unprecedented. On the peak of a barren mountain, Longao sat quietly as a cool breeze blew past. Long Fu, is there any way to speed up the stabilization of my realm? Now that the Tianwu continent was in chaos, with his current strength, if he wanted to rise in this chaotic world, it seemed that it was not enough. It was precisely because of this that Longao was very clear that he had to quickly stabilize his realm, just like breaking through to the Nirvana realm in the shortest time possible. Time was everything. Under such circumstances, he had to race against time. Master, there doesn't seem to be a good way to speed up the stabilization of your realm. Let me think. Chapter 1611. Long Fu didn't have a solution, but Longao had already guessed it. As for Xiling, Longao didn't have much hope either. Longao knew very well that if Xiling and Long Fu had a way to speed up his consolidation, they would have told him long ago. There was no need to wait until now. That was why Longao didn't ask Xiling. It seemed like he had to think of a solution himself. Speeding up his consolidation was much more difficult than breaking through to the Nirvana realm. Azura Palace. Listening to Xingdan's report, Azura Palace's palace master Xingdan's face didn't look too good. Longao, does Longao want to become the Azura Palace's enemy? Xingdan didn't know what Longao wanted to do. However, the Azura Palace and Longao had always minded their own business. Xingdan couldn't think of any reason why Longao would want to provoke the Azura Palace, because doing so would bring no benefits to Longao. Xingdan still couldn't think of a reason. Palace Master, Longao suddenly intervened in this matter. In my opinion, he must be plotting something. Continue. If Longao wanted to subdue the Liu Li sect, why did he have to do it now of all times? After being scared away by Longao, in order to silence him, Xingdan wished to borrow the power of the entire Azura Palace to kill Longao. There are so many third-rate forces, why did Longao choose the Liu Li sect? Palace Master, if I'm not mistaken, Longao wants to deal with the Azura Palace. Xingdan cursed in his heart. Longao has a grudge with the 3 super forces, so there's no need for us to do it ourselves. Let's borrow someone else's knife to kill him. Spread the news that Longao has appeared in the Sky Martial continent. Yes. Xingdan also had the same idea. After all, if he wanted to kill Longao, he was afraid that his side would also suffer some losses. This move of using a borrowed knife to kill the enemy could deal with Longao without losing a single soldier. Why not? The news of Longao entering the Sky Martial continent spread throughout the continent at the fastest speed. Everyone already knew about it. According to the punishment and punishment list. Based on the enmity between Longao and the three superpowers, once the three superpowers learned that Longao had entered the Martial Heaven continent, they would definitely attack. And the result? The two of them were taken aback. Everyone was taken aback. The three superpowers remained motionless, as if they hadn't received any news of Zero Wing's arrival. Could it be that the enmity between Longao and the three superforces had been resolved? In front of benefits, there were no eternal friends, and similarly, there were no eternal enemies. The Azura Palace wouldn't let this matter go if the three superpowers didn't make a move. However, the war was imminent, and they couldn't afford to affect the overall situation just because of one Longao. Liu Li sect. Elder Bai, how many is this? The fifth. Since yesterday, in a short span of one night, the disciples of Liu Li sect had been assassinated for no reason. 5 of them had died. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before all the disciples of Liu Li sect fell. Who was it? Master, this matter is very clear. The people who assassinated my Liu Li sect are either the Azura Palace or Longao. Bai Li nodded. Liu Li agreed with Bai Wuchang's guess. Both the Azura Palace and Longao wanted to subdue the sects. If the soft approach didn't work, they would use the hard approach. The 3 of them were depressed. With the Azura Palace's strength, the sects were definitely no match for them. As for Longao, the news of the battle between Longao and the 3 superpowers had spread throughout the Martial Heaven continent. Longao didn't even put the 3 superpowers in his eyes, let alone Liu Li sect. Originally, he wanted to make a big move, but he didn't expect to meet 2 fiends before he even started. Master, what should we do now? Before Liu Li could say anything, the whole hall was filled with voices. Master Liu Li, I am Xingxing. Master Xingxing. The 3 of them stood up at the same time and looked around, but they still couldn't find any trace of Xingxing. This kind of long-distance transmission consumed a lot of the soul. Xingxing's strength was far above Liu Li. He had successfully broken through to the realm of being one with the world. It would be a lie to say that they weren't afraid of him. The 3 of them knew clearly that if the Azura Palace really wanted to deal with Liu Li sect, they wouldn't be able to resist. Liu Li, I believe you already know what I mean. The 5 of them are just giving you a warning. If you still can't make a decision by this time tomorrow, I will launch a large-scale attack. If you can hold on for 3 days, I will drop the matter. 1 day to consider. The 3 of them sat down again. They looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes, but more of it was unwillingness. The Martial Heaven continent was in chaos. All the forces were very orderly. In other words, under normal circumstances, second-rated forces wouldn't attack third-rated forces, and third-rated forces wouldn't attack fourth-rated forces. After all, the difference between a second-rated force and a third-rated force was too big. They weren't even on the same level. However, the weak were prey to the strong. Even if the Azura Palace attacked Liu Li sect, or even destroyed it, no one would say anything. They would even think that it was a normal thing. Elders, what do you think we should do now? Master, since things have come to this point, we can only choose to submit. I don't believe that the Azura Palace will kill the donkey after it has outlived its usefulness. With the strength of our Liu Li sect, as long as the Azura Palace isn't stupid, they won't attack us. No matter if it was white impermanence or black impermanence, their intentions were clear. They wanted to submit to the Azura Palace. In their opinion, the Azura Palace's strength was far above Longao. Choosing Longao was a dead end. Elders, what do you think if we choose Longao? We can't. Both of them rejected at the same time. Black Impermanence said, Master, Even if Longao's potential is far beyond the Azura Palace, don't forget that Longao still has 3 super enemies. The Wan Shou sect, the Martial Artists Alliance, and the Long family. Any one of them can easily take care of Longao. As soon as Black Impermanence finished his words, White Impermanence continued, the 3 super forces are afraid of the other forces. They don't dare to split themselves. I believe that Master knows the strength of the 3 super forces. If we choose Longao, we will be dead for sure. How could Liu Li not understand the 2 elders' intentions? Feeling helpless, Liu Li was in a dilemma. However, he didn't know why, but he always believed in Longao instead of the Azura Palace. The cruelty of the Azura Palace was well known. Once the Azura Palace turned against him, there was nothing he could do. As the master of Liu Li sect, no matter what decision he made, the first thing he had to consider was the sect's interest. Master, both of us agree that the Liu Li sect can only choose the Azura Palace, not Longao. Chapter 1612. Elders, I still insist on choosing Longao. Black Impermanence and White Impermanence looked at each other. If the master was like this, were they going to die for nothing? The next day, Xing Ping and Xing Dan appeared at the Lapis Lazuli Peak. Not only that, Xing Ping also brought an army that was enough to wipe out the entire Lapis Lazuli sect. Lapis Lazuli, what have you decided? Rebirth Realm martial artists, no matter which power it was to, even including the 10 Direction Alliance, were all incomparably important existences. Master Xing, I'm really sorry. I've already promised Longao. The current Lapis Lazuli sect is no longer Lapis Lazuli sect, but Dragon sect. In the end, Lapis Lazuli still chose to submit to Longao, because he trusted his intuition. Hearing that the master still insisted on choosing Longao, Black Impermanence and White Impermanence were extremely depressed. Both of them said at the same time, Master, we're sorry. Both of them took advantage of the situation and came to Xing Ping's side in a short while. Both of them knelt on the ground and said respectfully, Master, both of us are willing to submit to the Azura Palace. There was no trace of anger. Everyone had their own ambitions. In Lapis Lazuli's opinion, the 2 elders' decision to submit to the Azura Palace was their own business. Xing Ping snorted coldly. I only want Lapis Lazuli. Both of you are worthless in my eyes. Both of them were shocked. Both Black Impermanence and White Impermanence could sense Xing Ping's killing intent. Was Xing Ping going to kill both of them? In the end, both of them had overestimated themselves. They thought that once they submitted to the Azura Palace, they would be valued greatly. But the result? Both of you betrayed the Lapis Lazuli sect, and I believe you will betray me as well. The Azura Palace does not need people like you. Master. Before both of them could finish, Xing Ping's figure had already moved. As a Nirvana Realm warrior, it was easy for him to kill both of them. Lapis Lazuli didn't make a move from the beginning to the end, because both of them had chosen this path. Since they had chosen it, they should bear the consequences. Liu Li, I really admire you. I can promise you that as long as you're willing to submit to the Azura Palace, you'll immediately become the 2nd Deputy Palace Master. Furthermore, you'll be an elder in the future. What do you think? With such conditions, the people behind him were all envious. It was just that no one dared to voice their anger. With Liu Li's strength, it was more than enough for her to become the 2nd Deputy Palace Master of the Azura Palace. He snorted coldly. Looking at the 2 corpses on the ground, Liu Li said helplessly, they have already chosen to submit. You can kill them. If I choose to submit, you will also kill me. You're different from them. Even now, punishment was still unwilling to give up. Both Liu Li's strength and intelligence were top-notch. If they could subdue such a person, it would only bring benefits to the Azura Palace. The meaning of punishment was very simple. In the entire Liu Li sect, he only needed Liu Li. As for the others, he could take them or not. Seeing that Liu Li was not saying anything, Xing suddenly laughed and said, Liu Li, do you really believe in Longao? I believe you know better than me about the grudges between him and the 3 superpowers. Do you think you will have a good ending if you follow him? Fuck you. What does it have to do with you whether I have a good ending or not? An unhappy voice sounded. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Longao's figure suddenly appeared. Master. The words master showed Liu Li's attitude. From now on, there was no Liu Li sect in the Sky Martial continent, only a branch of the Dragon sect. There was no surprise. Longao seemed to have guessed it. He was very satisfied and said, "Don't be afraid. I will protect you here. No one can hurt anyone here." A God Emperor warrior protecting a Nirvana realm warrior? This was simply an enormous joke. However, not a single person from the Azura Palace laughed out loud. The other party dared to appear so openly. Obviously, he did not put the Azura Palace in his eyes. If he did not have any backing, then he must be crazy. Looking at the young man in front of him, Punishment had already guessed who he was. "You are Longao?" "Yes, I am. Do you have any advice for me?" A face full of disregard. Punishment was not angry at all. Instead, he smiled and said, "Hearing about you is not as good as meeting you in person. I have always been curious about the hero who dares to go against the 3 superpowers. Now that I see it, it's just a coward. Sorry for the disrespect." What a foul mouth. Xingdan immediately scolded, "Longao, who do you think you are? How dare you talk to our palace master like that? Don't think you are very powerful. In front of the Azura Palace, you are just a piece of trash." Shaking his head, Longao looked at Liu Li and asked, "Have you really thought it through? I swear to follow you until death." "That's enough. I will let you know that you will not regret your choice today." Longao laughed and took 3 steps back. He looked at the people of the Azura Palace and said, "Punishment, since you have heard of me, you should know my character. Since today's grudge has been formed, we will have a battle in the future. However, today, I do not want to fight. Who do you think you are? If you want to fight, you will fight. If you don't want to fight, you won't fight." What a joke. Su Longao's figure suddenly disappeared. Before Punishment and Xingdan could react, miserable screams were heard. In just a few seconds, Longao appeared again at the same place. There were already more than 10 corpses on the ground. They were all divine warriors. Although it was not a big deal for the Azura Palace, Punishment was shocked by Longao's speed. Punishment had already sensed that Longao was only a peak God Emperor. However, Punishment knew that even he could not reach such a speed. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would find it hard to believe. "Longao, I will not let go of this debt. I will give you time. I hope you will not regret it." Waving his hand, Punishment turned around and left with his people. The mighty army disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Longao heaved a sigh of relief. Just now, he was shouting at Punishment. If the Azura Palace really wanted to attack, he could only escape with Liu Li. It was not realistic to fight them head-on. After all, the gap between them was too big. "Master, although Punishment has left temporarily, according to my understanding of the Azura Palace, he will not let go of this matter. We should think about it carefully." The fall of the 2 elders was undoubtedly a great blow to the Liu Li sect. After all, there were only 2 God Emperors in the Liu Li sect. However, the Liu Li sect trusted Longao. Otherwise, they wouldn't have chosen to submit to Longao at the risk of being annihilated by the Azura Palace. Chapter 16:13. He nodded. Regarding the Azura Palace, Longao more or less had some understanding. The Azura Palace was vicious and cruel. They had always destroyed their enemies directly. Longao could almost be sure that if he hadn't appeared in time, as long as Liu Li didn't agree to submit, only death would await him. At that time, not only Liu Li, even the entire Liu Li sect would be killed. Not a single one would be left alive. "Elder Liu Li, from now on, don't let anyone disturb me. I want to set up a formation here." Formation? Looking at Longao in front of him, Liu Li seemed to be a little surprised. Because he never thought that Longao would be an array master. Sky Martial Continent. There were 2 kinds of people whose status might be above warriors. The first kind of person was an alchemist, and the second kind was an array master. A powerful array master could fight against 10,000 people. Everyone knew one principle: one couldn't cultivate 3 DAOs at the same time, even 2 DAOs. If he were to cultivate array formations, alchemy, and martial arts at the same time, there would only be one result, which was that he would achieve nothing. It was precisely because of this. In Liu Li's opinion, even if Longao was an array master, he wouldn't be able to achieve much. How could Longao not know what Liu Li was thinking? He just smiled and didn't explain anything. Alchemists had a strict hierarchy. From low to high, they were divided into Level 1 Alchemist, Level 2 Alchemist, Level 3 Alchemist, Level 4 Alchemist, Level 5 Alchemist, Level 6 Alchemist, Level 7 Alchemist, Level 8 Alchemist, and Level 9 Alchemist. Above Level 9 Alchemist, there were King Level Alchemist, Emperor Level Alchemist, Supreme Level Alchemist, Emperor Level Alchemist, and God Level Alchemist. Previously, Longao's array level had already successfully broken through to the Emperor level. All this time, other than cultivating martial arts, Longao didn't dare to relax for a moment in alchemy and array Dao. After so many years of continuous exploration, Longao finally broke through to the God-level array master, and could be considered to have stepped into the peak of array master. In other words, with Longao's current level of array formation, once he set up an array formation, he could completely kill a Nirvana realm martial artist. This was the terrifying aspect of a divine array master. The level of one's array formation was closely related to one's own strength. For example, Longao was a peak God Emperor warrior. The array he set up could kill a Nirvana realm warrior. If it was a divine king warrior, even if it was a divine array master, the array he set up might not be able to kill a Nirvana realm warrior. This was the connection between one's strength and one's array formation realm. In the realm of formations, the deity level is not the end. Longao had not known about this in the past, but as his array formation realm broke through to the God level, he had a vague feeling that there should be a level above the God level. Could it be the starry sky? Above the Nirvana realm was the starry sky cultivator. If that was the case, then what was above the God-ranked array masters was the starry sky array master? Master, your array formation realm has already broken through to the God level. You should know more about array formations now. He was overjoyed. Hurry up and say it. Longao was a little impatient, because whether it was a martial artist or an array master, they all hoped to step into the peak. I believe Master has already guessed it. Above the God-ranked array master is the starry sky array master, which is also divided into 9 levels. Even without Long Fu's explanation, Longao already knew the levels of the starry sky array master. If there was no accident, the strength of the starry sky array master was ranked from the lowest to the highest level. Grade 1 starry sky array master, Grade 2 starry sky array master, Grade 3 starry sky array master, Grade 4 starry sky array master, Grade 5 starry sky array master, Grade 6 starry sky array master, Grade 7 starry sky array master, Grade 8 starry sky array master, and Grade 9 starry sky array master. In other words, although he had reached the deity level, there was still a long way to go before he could reach the starry sky array master realm. This was just like Nirvana realm martial artists. In the eyes of ordinary people, Nirvana realm martial artists were the strongest martial artists, but in their eyes, Nirvana realm martial artists were just a joke. Only starry sky martial artists were truly invincible. Under the starry sky, all were ants. Master, with your current level of array master, as long as the array you set up can trap a Nirvana realm martial artist, you can even kill a Nirvana realm martial artist. Longao certainly had confidence in this point. In the 5 realms of Nirvana, the real super experts were not Nirvana realm martial artists, but Nirvana rebirth. Longao knew very well that even in the deity level, there was a difference between the deity level and the great perfection level. He had just stepped into the deity level. If he could continue to break through to the great perfection level, Longao had full confidence that he could even kill a Nirvana rebirth martial artist. However, breaking through to the great perfection level was easier said than done. According to Longao's estimation, if he wanted to break through to the great perfection level, he would first have to break through the peak God Emperor realm and reach the Nirvana realm. As for array formations, the same array formation set up by array masters of different realms would have a great difference in power. Take the 9 heavens 10 earths devil subduing formation for example. The power of an emperor-level formation master and a god-level formation master were two completely different concepts. It was precisely because he had broken through to the divine realm that Longao had the confidence to fight against the Azura Palace. According to his investigation, there were only 2 Nirvana realm warriors in the entire Azura Palace. One of them was the Azura Palace's palace master Xingdan, and the other was the Azura Palace's first vice palace master, Xingdan. One was to comprehend the heaven and earth while the other was to become one with the heaven and man. As long as the two of them were not afraid of death and stepped into his formation, it was guaranteed that they would not be able to return. Illusory illusion formation, Tai Chi formless formation, hidden dragon godly annihilation formation, yin-yang turbid heaven formation, 6 wheels demon formation, boundless tornado illusion formation, 5 elements formation, duality vanishing dust formation, 12 divine fiends formation, great stars formation, 9 bends yellow river formation, spirit gathering formation, 9 heavens 10 earths slaughter formation, 10,000 ghosts soul devouring formation, boundless chaos everlasting formation, nirvana void lifeless formation, 3 lives 3 deaths soul dispersing formation, hidden dragon godly annihilation formation, 6 wheels demon formation, boundless tornado illusion formation, 12 divine fiends formation. Having successfully broken through to the deity level, Longao's speed in setting up formations had greatly increased. In less than 2 days, he had set up more than 100 formations. Each formation was connected to the next, and each formation was linked to the next. One move and the whole formation would be destroyed. One could imagine how powerful it was. However, even so, Longao was still not at ease. In addition to the 100 formations, Longao was prepared to use the remaining 1 day to arrange the most powerful formation in the Burning Heaven formation, which was the so-called Burning Heaven formation. When Fen Tian taught Longao the Burning Sky formation arts, he had repeatedly warned him that unless it was absolutely necessary, the Burning Sky formation could not be set up casually. Once it attracted the attention of the continent, there would be endless troubles. When that time came, how would he deal with the situation when he was surrounded by enemies? However, at this moment, Longao could no longer care about anything else. He resolutely prepared to set up the Burning Sky formation. Chapter 1614. Under normal circumstances, Longao wouldn't use any other array, let alone the Burning Sky array. The reason was simple. Longao didn't want anyone to know that he had become a divine array master. The array was his last trump card, and also his last trump card against the 3 super forces. However, the situation was different now. The marvelous mathematician had been in seclusion for 3 years, and the continent was in turmoil. There was only one way to rise up in this chaotic world, and that was to create a world with one's fists. Was it possible to rely on strength alone? Although he had full confidence in his own strength, Longao still had self-awareness. Wanting to rely on himself to rise abruptly in this chaotic world seemed to be a bit of a fantasy story. It was not realistic. If his strength wasn't enough, he could only rely on the array. With the help of the powerful array, Longao wouldn't put anyone in his eyes as long as it wasn't a Nirvana reborn warrior. This was the terrifying part of the array. Rise up. Longao had decided to use the Liu Li sect, which was the current branch of the Dragon sect, as the center, and quickly spread out. His first target was the enemy he had just provoked, the Azura Palace. Branch of the Dragon sect. In the main hall. Following the death of the 2 elders, Liu Li seemed to be helpless, because the Liu Li sect that he had painstakingly built was now given to someone else. However, since he had made his choice, Liu Li wouldn't regret it. If he lost, he would just die. Once he won, he would become a hero of the Dragon sect, which wasn't a bad thing. Master, according to the news I just received, the Azura Palace has no time to deal with us. What's the situation? Longao was very curious. He did not know what had happened. Master, the current Tianwu continent is in turmoil. Other than the 10 forces, 60% of the sects have joined the chaos. Among them, none of the second-rate forces have escaped. How could Longao not know about this? The Azura Palace has been keeping a low profile. According to my guess, the Azura Palace wants to be the Oriole behind the mantis stalking the cicada. When the time comes, they will watch the fire from the other side and reap the benefits. So what? Although the Azura Palace's wishful thinking is good, the other second-rated powers are not to be trifled with either. There are a few second-rated powers that don't like the Azura Palace, and are itching to make trouble. Under such circumstances, how could the Azura Palace spare any time to deal with us? So that was the case. Would the Azura Palace really do this? No one knew what the outcome would be until the very end. Longao's intuition told him that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Was it possible for the Azura Palace to let him and his sect go? Elder Liu Li, what do you think about this? Master, forgive me for being blunt, but with our current strength, we are no match for the Azura Palace. Rather than fighting them head-on, we might as well choose another location, or retreat in order to advance. Liu Li's intention was clear. She did not want to confront the Azura Palace head-on. If it were any other time, Longao would definitely accept Liu Li's suggestion. After all, the Azura Palace's strength was clear for all to see. In addition, the three superpowers were also eyeing them covetously. Choosing to confront them head-on would only bring more harm than good. But now, the situation was completely different. The continent was in turmoil right now. If one wanted to rise in this chaotic world, passively taking a beating was the same as courting death. Only by taking the initiative would they have a chance to survive. Elder Liu Li, what if we take the initiative to attack? Take the initiative to attack. Hearing the master's words, Liu Li was shocked. She never thought that her master would make such a decision. Taking the initiative to attack would only lead to death. Could it be that her master's brain was flooded with water? Master, forgive me for being blunt, but if we choose to take the initiative to attack, I'm afraid. Although Liu Li did not finish her sentence, the meaning behind her words was very clear. If they chose to take the initiative to attack, they would only end up dead. I've made up my mind. Liu Li was very clear about her identity. Since she had chosen to submit, there was no Liu Li sect anymore. There was only the Dragon sect's branch. If that was the case, Longao was the one with the highest authority. She sighed deeply in her heart. Liu Li thought for a while, and finally chose to compromise. She asked, Master, what should we do now? She smiled. In the middle of the night, two figures suddenly shot out from the Dragon sect's branch. They were Longao and Liu Li. Their speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, their figures turned into two black dots, quickly disappearing into the dark night. Azura Palace. Xing Dan and Xing Xing were extremely depressed. Both of them never thought that at this time, the surrounding second-rate forces would join hands to deal with the Azura Palace. Facing enemies from all sides, the Azura Palace was in a passive position. All of this was because of Longao and the Liu Li sect. Otherwise, the Azura Palace would not have exposed their strength and attracted the attention of the surrounding second-rate forces. As the saying goes, two fists cannot fight against four hands. No matter how strong the Azura Palace was, it was impossible for them to fight against 10 people at once. Palace Master, what should we do about the Liu Li sect and Longao? Now is not the time to deal with Longao and the Liu Li sect. It's just a small Longao and the Liu Li sect. If we want to destroy them, it will be a matter of minutes. The most important thing now is to deal with the surrounding sects as soon as possible. Otherwise, once we fall into a passive position, it will be very troublesome. Just as the two were discussing what to do next, a man suddenly came in from outside. He was the second vice palace master of the Azura Palace, a peak god emperor warrior. Other than the two of them, he was also the most powerful person in the Azura Palace. Palace Master, things are not good. Our disciples are constantly decreasing, and the corpses are just outside the palace. Ah! Hearing this, both of them were shocked and instantly disappeared from the palace. Outside the palace. Looking at the 20 or so corpses on the ground, No matter if it was the punishment list or the punishment list, both of their faces were extremely gloomy. No matter who did this, it was a provocation to them. Once this matter was spread out, where would the Azura Palace's face go? Do you know who did it? The second Vice Palace Master shook his head and said helplessly, Palace Master, the person who came obviously did not want to fight us head-on. He just wanted to assassinate our divine Tao disciples, so we can't confirm his identity. Palace Master, do you think this was done by the Liu Li sect and Longao? Xingdan's first thought was Longao and the Liu Li sect. After all, according to the current situation, Longao and the Liu Li sect were the most suspicious. However, Xingdan shook his head and said with a cold smile, Longao and the Liu Li sect are not fools. It's impossible for them to choose to deal with us at this time. Seems like it's done by other sects. How dare you pull the teeth from the tiger's mouth? You're simply courting death. Since you can't wait to be destroyed, I'll fulfill your wish. Just wait for it. Xingdan did not put Longao and the Liu Li sect in his eyes. In his opinion, it was impossible for this to be done by Longao and the Liu Li sect. After all, the surrounding sects did not like them. Chapter 1615. Cloud Valley, Purple Flame Sect. Among all the second-rate forces, these two sects were the ones who disliked the Azura Palace the most. The strength of the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame Sect was on par with the Azura Palace. With 2 against 1, the Azura Palace would have a hard time fending them off. Both the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame Sect had 2 Nirvana realm martial artists. One had comprehended the heavens and the earth, while the other had comprehended the unity of heaven and man. The 2 sects had a total of 4 Nirvana realm martial artists. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't afraid. However, there was not much fear in the punishment. The reason was simple. Although the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame sect seemed to be in an alliance, their relationship was actually quite bad. Otherwise, how could the Azura Palace be so relaxed when the 2 sects joined hands? They were defeated one by one. From Xing Fei's point of view, the person who assassinated his disciple was either from Cloud Rising Valley or the Purple Flame sect. Outside Azura Peak. Elder Liu Li, if nothing unexpected happens, the Azura Palace will deal with the Cloud Valley or the Purple Flame sect next. Liu Li didn't expect this outcome either. Master, I'm impressed that you're using others to do your dirty work. Get someone else to do the dirty work. Longao had never thought of killing someone with a borrowed knife. In his opinion, the reason he took the initiative to attack this time was to provoke the Punishment Palace, so that the Azura Palace would deal with him. This way, he would be able to save himself a lot of trouble. Longao didn't expect that Punishment didn't think that he was the one who did it. Instead, it was Cloud Valley or Purple Flame sect. Man's plans were better than God's. However, this was also a good thing. If the Azura Palace were to really fight with the other 2 sects, then he would be able to watch the fire from the other side of the river and reap the benefits from it. Master, what should we do now? Let's wait and see. Their sect was suddenly ambushed, and more than 20 people died. Furthermore, they were all supreme Tao martial artists. How could they swallow this grievance? However, Xing Fei wasn't a fool and wouldn't act recklessly. Once he angered Yun Jiyu and the Purple Flame sect, the 2 great sects would join hands. At that time, he would go for wool and come home shorn. Let's test them first. Before the punishment could be carried out, the Cloud Valley's Valley Master, Yun Luoshan, and the Purple Flame sect's Master, Zi Chuan, both sent word at the same time, saying that this matter had nothing to do with their sects. Daring and daring. The punishment was very clear. If this matter was really done by the 2 great sects, then Cloud Rising Valley and Purple Flame sect would definitely admit to it. During the Age of Chaos, you kill me, and I kill you. If it wasn't the Cloud Rising Valley or the Purple Ember sect, then who could it be? After thinking about it, in the end, Xing Fei locked his target on Liu Li sect and Longao. Because other than the 2 of them, he really couldn't think of anyone else who had such a big grudge with him. Azura Palace. The silent hall was especially eerie. Master, Are you saying that what happened before was done by Longao and Liu Li? It shouldn't be too bad. He seemed a little surprised. Xingdan thought for a moment before saying, Master, Liu Li and Longao are so daring. If it were any other time, even if you gave them 10,000 guts, I believe they wouldn't dare. But at this time, Liu Li and Longao aren't easy to deal with. Don't even think about stepping on us to climb up. It didn't matter if this matter was done by Longao and Liu Li, Xing Fei had already decided. Master, what should we do? If we don't solve this matter, where will our face go? Especially at this time. From now on, spread the word that we will deal with Liu Li sect with all our strength. Whoever dares to cause trouble at this time, we will fight to the death. Yes. Xingdan immediately stood up and left the hall. As soon as Xingdan left, before Xing Fei could react, an old man appeared in front of him. Seeing the old man, Xing Fei was shocked. He immediately stood up and bowed respectfully. Greetings, old ancestor. The old man was none other than the Azura Palace's old ancestor, Xing Kuan. 10,000 years ago. Xing Kuan was born out of nowhere. Possessing great strength, Xing Kuan used cruel methods to sweep across the world. No one could defeat him. 10,000 years ago, Xing Kuan's cultivation had already broken through the Nirvana rebirth realm. However, because Xing Kuan's methods were too cruel, it caused many people to complain. In the end, Xing Kuan attracted the 10 old ancestors of the 10 directions to join forces and kill Xing Kuan. 1 against 10, no matter how strong Xing Kuan was, it was impossible for him to defeat 10 Nirvana rebirth realm warriors. The result was obvious. Xing Kuan was besieged, and because of this, everyone unanimously believed that the devil Xing Kuan from back then had fallen. If others were to see the fallen Xing Kuan suddenly appear here, who knew if it would shock the world? Xing Fei, what is this? Xing Fei didn't dare to hide anything. He told everything that had happened before. Kill. A simple word was enough to express the Azura Palace's intention. After all, in the Azura Palace, Xing Kuan was the god. No one dared to go against him. Outside the Azura Peak. After such a long time, Longao already knew that the situation was not good. He said helplessly, "It seems like this method of killing someone with a borrowed knife is not very effective. Elder Liu Li, let's continue to attack. I don't believe that the Azura Palace will continue to endure." After thinking for a while, Liu Li said worriedly, "Master, I wonder if you've heard of a person, Xing Kuan of the Azura Palace." Who was Xing Kuan? Longao knew nothing about this Xing Kuan mentioned by Liu Li. Master, Xing Kuan rose to power 10,000 years ago. He was from the same era as Jian Tian of the Sword Sect and Long Tian of the Long family. However, he seemed to be stronger. If it wasn't for Xing Kuan's cruel methods, he wouldn't have been besieged. However, Xingdan had said that Xing Kuan didn't fall, and was reborn. He was startled. Longao knew Long Tian and Jian Tian's strength better than anyone else. Since Xing Kuan was from the same era as these people, then there was no doubt that Xing Kuan was also a Nirvana rebirth realm warrior. If he was still alive, then things would be troublesome. Longao never thought that the Azura Palace would have such a powerful person. The 10-direction tripod, Long family, Dan Union, Martial Artists Alliance, WN Show Sect, Heaven and Earth Sect, 5 Elements Sect, Wanzhan School, Sword Sect, Purple Thunder Sect, and Profound Heaven Sect. The biggest reason why they could dominate the Sky Martial continent was because each of the 10-direction tripod had a Nirvana rebirth realm warrior. If the Azura Palace really had such a powerful warrior, then even if their strength was weaker, the 10-direction tripod wouldn't dare to provoke the Azura Palace. After all, a Nirvana rebirth realm warrior could sweep across the world, and no one could defeat him. No wonder the Azura Palace wanted to get their hands on the 10-direction tripod. With the strength of a second-rate force, they couldn't compete with the 10-direction tripod. Getting their hands on the 10-direction tripod was the same as seeking death. However, with Xing Kuan in the Azura Palace, the impossible became possible. This was the power of a Nirvana rebirth realm warrior. Chapter 1616. How could Longao not understand Liu Li's intention? Once Xing Kuan interfered in this matter, it would be troublesome. Longao knew clearly that there were some things that he had to do. If he was afraid of Xing Kuan and took a step back, the Azura Palace would definitely press on. If he took a step back, the Azura Palace would take a step forward. Liu Li, follow me. Liu Li was not a fool. Of course, she knew what Longao meant. The two of them were like two cheetahs. With two whooshing sounds, the two of them disappeared without a trace. In the following period of time, Longao and Liu Li were killing the disciples of the Azura Palace at their fastest speed. They were too lazy to deal with those below the Great Emperor realm. In just half an hour, hundreds of disciples of the Azura Palace had fainted. The two of them were too powerful. One was a peak god realm warrior, while the other was a Nirvana realm warrior who had comprehended the heaven and earth. The two of them were too fast. They came and went without a trace. In the 9 heavens, Punisher raised his head and looked at the two people in the air. His expression was extremely gloomy as he coldly said, Longao, Liu Li, the two of you really don't know what's good for you. You actually dare to provoke me. He sneered. Xingdu, if we didn't take the initiative to attack, I believe you would attack us soon. If that's the case, why don't we dare? Without waiting for Xingdu to speak, Longao continued, Xingdu, I can give you a chance now. Bring the Azura Palace and submit to the Dragon Sect. I can let bygones be bygones. Ha ha ha, with just you? Hearing this, Xing Dan and Xing Xing laughed crazily, and everyone around them laughed as well. Their laughter was filled with disdain and ridicule as if they had heard the funniest thing in the world. Courting death. As soon as Xingdu finished speaking, Xingdu and Xing Dan had already rushed out. In the blink of an eye, the four of them were engaged in a fierce battle. In the 9 heavens, a shocking battle was taking place. Liu Li's cultivation had only reached the level of comprehending the heaven and earth. Once she encountered Xingdu, she would die. Of course, Longao wouldn't lose Liu Li for nothing. Thus, Liu Li fought against Xing Dan, while Longao fought against Xing Dan. A god-emperor martial artist fought against a martial artist who was one with the world. Was this true? Looking at Longao fighting against the palace masters in the sky, everyone in the Azura Palace was dumbfounded, especially the 11 palace masters. Self-created martial technique, heaven and earth mourn. With Longao as the center, a huge vortex of air suddenly appeared. Before punishment could react, he had already been sucked into the vortex. Inside the vortex, Longao and his Samsara doppelganger attacked each other fiercely. Wave after wave, like the waves of the sea, surging violently. Longao, I have to admit that your strength and talent are the best I've ever seen. But now, I'll tell you what the absolute gap between realms is. Punishment cultivated the power of Azura. When one's cultivation broke through to one with the world, he would condense his own heaven and earth domain. Punishment merged his Azura power into his heaven and earth domain, forming the Azura domain. Nirvana martial artists, especially those who broke through to one with the world, could defeat all other martial artists with their heaven and earth domain alone. Ordinary martial artists would die without a doubt when faced with the suppression of the heaven and earth domain. Except for Longao. He was an anomaly. Longao had the reincarnation sword, the most precious treasure of the reincarnation clan. Moreover, he cultivated the reincarnation sword art. The reincarnation sword light released could not only break the aura of heaven and earth, but also the heaven and earth domain, including the Azura domain. Holding the reincarnation sword tightly, Longao swung his sword a few times. The terrifying sword light instantly broke through the suppression of punishment's Azura domain. Shock. Incomparable shock. The Azura domain he released was broken. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he wouldn't believe that a puny god-emperor martial artist could break through his Azura domain even if he was beaten to death. Taking advantage of the situation. Although Longao knew that he couldn't win, he still took the initiative to attack. No matter when, he didn't like to be passive. However, Longao didn't come here to risk his life with punishment and Liu Li. After 30 rounds of battle, Longao and Liu Li left together. It was as if the two of them had discussed it beforehand. Looking at the two people who had already disappeared, The punishment master's face was filled with shock. Because until now, he still couldn't figure out how Longao was able to break through the Azura domain that he had released. Unless it was heavenly cycle multiplication, could it be that Longao was hiding his strength? Impossible, it was completely impossible. Longao's strength was obvious. Not to mention cycle multiplication, Longao hadn't even broken through to the heaven and earth domain. Master, Longao and Liu Li are provoking us. If we don't chase after them, I'm afraid, waving his hand. Before Xingdan could finish his words, Punishment suddenly said excitedly, I really didn't expect Longao's divine sword to be able to break through my Azura domain. If only I could get my hands on that sword. After the battle just now, Xingdan was almost certain that the reason why Longao was able to break through his Azura domain was because of the divine sword. Xingdan's face revealed a strong greed. Not only Xingdan, even Xingdan who heard about this matter was extremely envious. Master, what should we do now? I keep feeling that something is wrong. Why did Longao and Liu Li provoke us out of the blue? Don't they have anything better to do? He cursed in his heart. However, since Punishment was the Azura Palace's palace master, he didn't dare to say anything. Looks like we have to test them out first. One couldn't help but admit that Punishment was very careful. If it was someone else, they would have already chased after them. Xingdan was one of them. Punishment had sent out 11 vice palace masters, all of whom were god emperors. With such strength, no one in the Liu Li sect would be a match for them unless Liu Li personally took action. Punishment and Xingdan followed closely behind. The 13 of them left the Azura Palace and headed towards the Liu Li sect, which was the headquarters of the Dragon Sect's branch. As soon as Punishment and the others left the Azura Palace, Longao and Liu Li received the news. Longao wasn't surprised by this result. Instead, it was Liu Li who was extremely worried. After all, the Azura Palace's strength was obvious. With Punishment and the 12 vice palace masters here, would they be able to withstand them? In the main hall of the Dragon Sect's branch, sect leader, Xing Fa, and the others are already here. Can the formation we set up really hold them off? Although the Liu Li sect had submitted to the Dragon Sect, in Liu Li's heart, he didn't want his sect to suffer any losses. Although he trusted Longao, Longao was too young. His talent and strength were powerful. How could his formation be so powerful as well? It was impossible. If they let their guard down, they would fall into eternal damnation. P.S. The 8th chapter has been delivered. 2 more chapters will be updated at night. Xiao Ju is going to rest for a while. Those who have votes, please vote for Longao. Xiao Ju thanks. Chapter 16-17. They didn't believe him. Longao wasn't angry at all, because no matter who it was, they wouldn't choose to believe him. Elder Liu Li, let's wait and see. Looking at Longao's confident face, what else could Liu Li say? A few hours later, Xing and the others had arrived at the Liu Li peak. Master, what should we do now? Looking at the huge peak in front of him, Xing didn't know why, but he had an ominous feeling. Xingdan, you go in and check it out. Ah! Xingdan's expression changed when he heard the palace master asking him to enter the Liu Li peak. If he refused in front of so many people, wouldn't he lose face? After cursing in his heart, Xingdan said with a calm face, Palace master, wait for my good news. Be careful. Without saying anything else, Xingdan took a big step forward and dashed out like a whirlwind. In the blink of an eye, Xingdan's figure had disappeared without a trace. Inside the Liu Li peak. Currently, the Liu Li peak was filled with terrifying formations. Not to mention Xingdan, even Xing and Nirvana Realm warriors wouldn't be able to leave easily once trapped in the formations. Halfway up the mountain, it was a spacious, flat land. There were rocks and weeds everywhere, just like a mass grave. Longao, Liu Li, I'm here. Show yourself. Xingdan is indeed heroic. Longao and Liu Li appeared at the same time and looked coldly at Xingdan in front of them. Longao did not have the slightest expression, but Liu Li was very worried. Both of them had received the news that Xingdan and the others were outside the peak, and only Xingdan came in. Longao sneered in his heart. How could he not know Xingdan's intention? In the end, Xingdan was afraid of him, so he didn't dare to come in himself. Besides, Longao also admired Xingdan. As expected of the Azura Palace's palace master, he was more careful than many people. Longao, Liu Li, how dare you provoke the Azura Palace? Only death awaits you. Before the two of them could say anything, Xingdan continued, however, our hall master is magnanimous and can give you a chance. Tell me about it. As long as you're willing to submit to the Azura Palace, we can let bygones be bygones. He smiled and shook his head. Longao's face was full of mockery as he said disdainfully, I don't know if you are naive or if I am deaf. Xingdan, do you think that we will choose to submit? No. Xingdan knew this better than anyone else. Liu Li, the Liu Li sect that you worked so hard to build, are you willing to give it to this person? He should be willing. Since she had already made up her mind, Liu Li would not regret it. Liu Li, I feel bad for you. Sowing dissension. How could Longao not know what Xingdan meant? If it was someone else, they might have been fooled. However, Longao knew Liu Li more or less. Liu Li was quite a character. Xingdan, it seems that your sowing dissension is useless. You entered my dragon sect alone. Do you think you can leave smoothly? Looking at the sinister smile on their faces, Xingdan's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that they were prepared to deal with him? If that was the case, he would be in big trouble. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't afraid. Xingdan knew clearly that even if he had comprehended the heavens and earth, the other side also had someone who had comprehended the heavens and earth. Moreover, Longao's strength was not simple. It would be difficult for him to defeat the two of them alone. He cursed the hall master in his heart. Xingdan was cursing himself in his heart. If it wasn't for his pride, he wouldn't have ended up like this. He couldn't advance or retreat. He was in a dilemma. Are you afraid? Afraid? Before Xingdan could speak, Longao and Liu Li's figures suddenly disappeared. The array around them was activated immediately. The array was linked together, and a single move would affect the whole body. Array? Of course, Xingdan knew that the array around them had been activated. It was because of this that Xingdan was shocked. He never thought that the other party could set up an array. When did such a powerful array master appear in the Liu Li sect? Could it be Longao? Even so, Xingdan still didn't care about the array around them. Although an array master was powerful, he had to be at a certain level. After all, a level 9 array master and an emperor-level array master were two different concepts. From the beginning to the end, no one was willing to believe that Longao was a god-level array master. Otherwise, Xingdan wouldn't be so calm. 2 hours later. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Liu Li was a little dumbfounded. Until now, he still hadn't realized that the array set up by the master had killed a Nirvana realm cultivator. If that was the case, wouldn't the array set up by the master be able to kill him? Master, what should we do now? After the matter with Xingdan, Longao's position in Liu Li's heart immediately rose. Liu Li knew very well that according to the power of the array, if there were no accidents, the master should be a god-level array master. Although it was a little unimaginable, the truth was right in front of him. He couldn't help but believe it. I'm going to refine Xingdan into a corpse slave. Wait for me here. Longao's figure immediately appeared in the dragon seal space. He looked at Long Fu and asked impatiently, Long Fu, how long will it take for you to refine a corpse slave that can comprehend the heavens and earth? Long Fu also knew the seriousness of the matter. He lowered his head and thought for a moment, then said, Master, the blood pool has already broken out of the seal. Although I can use the dragon seal to refine a corpse slave, the corpse slave refined will be very different from the one refined by the blood pool. How's its strength? It's about the same. However, Master, the refining speed will be slower. I've already calculated. Even if I refine it with all my strength, it will still take me a day and a night. A day and a night wasn't too long for Longao. He knew very well that as long as Xingdan didn't leave, She wouldn't casually step into the dragon seal space. If that was the case, then it would be time for him to make his move after a day and a night. Long Fu, I'm counting on you. In the following time, Long Fu began to refine a corpse slave with all his strength. After all, the blood pool had already broken out of the seal. Without the help of the blood pool, the speed of refining a corpse slave would be much slower. However, in terms of power, whether it was a corpse slave refined by the blood pool or a corpse refined by the dragon seal, there wasn't much difference in strength. Longao cared about the corpse slave's strength and not the refining time. Because to him, refining for a few hours and refining for a day and a night didn't make much difference. Author's note: the 9th chapter has been delivered. Little 9 is tired. Today's chapter will be added tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll update as many chapters as I can. Chapter 1618. Outside the Liu Li Mountain. It had been a day and a night since Xingdan entered the Liu Li sect. Xingdan still hadn't come out. Did something happen to Xingdan? Although Xingdan was a little worried, he was still very clear about Xingdan's strength. It was almost impossible to kill Xingdan with just Longao and Liu Li. Under normal circumstances, Xingdan should have come out no matter what happened after entering the Liu Li sect. But what happened? What the hell happened? Time passed by slowly. The day was fading away and dusk was coming. Right at this moment, Xingdan's figure suddenly appeared. Seeing the figure coming from afar, Xingdan and the others were overjoyed. No matter what, it was good that Xingdan was fine. After all, a Nirvana Realm warrior was something the Azura Palace couldn't afford to lose. Palace Master. Xingdan, what happened in the Liu Li sect? Xingdan looked at Xingdan in front of him and was very curious. He could clearly feel that the aura emitted from Xingdan's body wasn't right. Palace Master, Longao and Liu Li set up a formation and trapped me inside. Formation? When did a formation master appear in the Liu Li sect? Xingdan knew the situation in the Liu Li sect very well. If that was the case, it was very simple. The sudden appearance of a formation master in the Liu Li sect seemed to be brought here by Longao. To be able to trap Xingdan for a day and a night, it already showed the power of the Liu Li sect's formation. Just as expected, Xingdan felt that something wasn't right. It seemed that his intuition was right. Palace Master, what should we do now? Xingdan was expressionless. After all, corpse slaves weren't real humans. They couldn't have human expressions. Before Xingdan could say anything, Xingdan, who was respectful just a moment ago, suddenly took a big step forward and punched out with both fists. The situation was too sudden. The 11 deputy palace masters didn't have time to react. Xingdan was very calm. He dodged to the left and steadily dodged Xingdan's fists. He sneered. Xingping turned his body sideways and struck Xingdan with his palm. Xingdan's body was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. But in the air, Xingdan forcefully turned around and stopped. Unscathed. He was very shocked because punishment was very confident in the strength of his attack. Even Xingdan would not be able to take it head-on. Xingdan, are you crazy? The second vice palace master had a very gloomy expression on his face. That was because no one knew exactly what was going on with Xingdan, and why she would suddenly attack them. Could it be that Xingdan had betrayed them? It didn't seem very likely, because the difference in strength between the Azura Palace and the Liu Li sect was too big. Not to mention Xingdan, no matter who it was, they wouldn't choose the Liu Li sect and give up on the Azura Palace. Punishment's face was also very gloomy. Staring coldly at Xingdan, Xingdan suddenly said, Longao, Azurite, since you didn't achieve your goal, shouldn't you show yourself? Ha ha ha, punishment, you're really amazing. Looking at the two people slowly walking towards him, the punishment officer's face grew increasingly gloomy. Longao was also quite surprised. According to his estimates, after Xingdan had been refined into a corpse slave, there was a high chance that he would be able to kill Xingdan in a sneak attack. After all, Xingdan would not expect Xingdan to suddenly attack. However, the result was beyond his expectations. It seemed like Xingdan wasn't a simple person. The more it was so, the more helpless Longao felt. Since they didn't manage to kill Xingdan this time, it wouldn't be easy for them to find another opportunity in the future. Corpse slave. According to the legends, Longao was able to refine corpse slaves, and with his corpse slave army, he had always been invincible. Xingdan was almost certain that Xingdan was definitely refined into a corpse slave by Longao. It was precisely because of this that he was very shocked, because Xingdan's strength was right there. How exactly did Longao and Liu Li do it? It seems like the corpse slaves I've refined are quite famous. Punishment. I believe you've seen Xingdan's strength. With your strength, you won't be able to break through Xingdan's defense. What do you think will happen if Xingdan attacks the Azura Palace? There was no answer. That was because, of course, Xingdan knew what would happen once he entered the Azura Palace with Xingdan's current strength and powerful defense. Punishment was very depressed. He didn't expect that he would become the passive one when he was the one taking the initiative. Longao, what do you want? Seizing the initiative, Longao said with a smile, my condition is very simple. From now on, the Azura Palace and Longao will mind their own business. I won't stop you. I hope you won't bother me again. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Longao was very clear about the strength of himself and the Longao's branch. At this moment, fighting the Azura Palace head-on was like hitting a rock with an egg. As the saying goes, revenge is a dish best served cold. When the Longao's branch grew stronger, it wouldn't be too late to deal with the Azura Palace. How could punishment not understand Longao's intention? Should he just give up like this? Punishment's heart was filled with endless unwillingness, because Longao was too unpredictable. With Longao's talent and potential, he believed that his future would be bright. When that time came, once Longao grew stronger, would he and the Azura Palace still have a chance to survive? If he didn't remove the roots now, it would grow again in the future. He couldn't agree, but he also couldn't refuse. Longao, you're too arrogant. Right at this moment, a faintly discernible voice suddenly sounded. Then, an old man appeared out of thin air. He had a smile on his face, but it was a very treacherous smile. Ancestor. Looking at the old man who appeared in front of them, the punishment 12 immediately bowed respectfully. Xingkuan. From Liu Li's words, Longao already knew who Xingkuan was. The ancestor of the Azura Palace, Xingkuan, had become famous 10,000 years ago. He was a Nirvana reborn warrior, and his strength was even higher than Long Tian. According to Liu Li, Xingkuan's strength was even stronger than the myriad beast's ancestor. 10,000 years ago, he was known as the #1 warrior under the heavenly Tao. However, after Xingkuan's fall, the title of #1 warrior under the heavenly Tao was given to the myriad beast's ancestor. One could imagine just how powerful Xingkuan's strength was. Xingkuan looked at Xingdan, who was not far away. It would be a lie if he said he wasn't surprised. After all, if he didn't see it with his own eyes, even he wouldn't believe it. Longao, I don't have any problems with the conditions you just mentioned. Ancestor. Punishment 12 was shocked when he heard the ancestor agree. He didn't expect the ancestor to really agree. However, Xingkuan waved his hand and said with a smile, I know what I'm doing. Don't say anything. Chapter 16-19. Looking at the sudden arrival of Xingkuan, Liu Li's face turned ugly. Xingkuan, the strongest person 10,000 years ago. His methods were cruel and he slaughtered all living things. Liu Li never thought that Xingkuan would really come. Did she really make the wrong choice this time? Both Longao and Liu Li were not fools. Of course, they knew that Xingkuan would not agree so easily. After all, Xingkuan's strength was there. Xingkuan, tell me your conditions. Longao was very afraid of Xingkuan. He could almost say that Xingkuan's strength had not weakened after the rebirth of his primordial spirit. In other words, today, Xingkuan was a genuine Nirvana rebirth expert. Only one step. Only one step. As long as Xingkuan devoured the origin power, he believed that in less than a month, Xingkuan's cultivation would break through the Nirvana realm and reach the so-called Starry Sky realm, becoming a Starry Sky cultivator. Such a super expert, even if countless arrays were arranged, could not be eliminated. Unless the array level continued to break through and reach the legendary Starry Sky Array Master. Xingqian smiled. Longao, you are very smart. I have heard about your matter. I have to admit, you are definitely the first person since ancient times to make the 3 super forces like this. Longao did not speak. He just looked at him coldly. Longao, your conditions are simple, but mine are even simpler. Please say. I am very interested in the divine sword in your hand. As long as you hand over the sword, the method to refine corpse slaves, the time martial arts you practice, and the spatial divine tool, not only will the grudge between us be written off, I can even promise you that the Azura Palace will fully support you, Longao. What do you think? So that was it. Longao knew that things were not so simple. How could Xingqian be so kind? Not only would he let bygones be bygones, but he would also help him. In the end, Xingqian wanted all the treasures on him. All of a sudden, Longao laughed. Longao, what are you laughing at? Xing Fa was very unwilling in his heart because the things that the old ancestor had mentioned were things that he yearned for even in his dreams. However, the old ancestor had already appeared. Even if he had endless anger and unwillingness in his heart, he could only be angry and not say anything. Longao, this matter will only bring you benefits and no harm. He sneered. Xingqian, do you think I will agree? As the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. Even if you have a treasure, only death awaits you. Xingqian's heart was filled with greed because the godly sword Longao had used was able to break through penalties heaven and earth domain. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it. As for the other items, he had only heard of them through hearsay. As for whether the other party had them or not, even Xingqian himself could not be certain. Other than the divine sword, there was also the method to refine corpse slaves. Xingqian was very clear that if he could obtain the method to refine corpse slaves, then even if he lost this opportunity, as long as he could refine over 1 million corpse slaves, he would be able to conquer the continent in the future. It was precisely because of this. In Xingqian's view, he didn't care about Longao's life at all because in his eyes, even if Longao's talent was powerful, he might not be able to break through the Nirvana realm within 100 years. Even if Longao could break through the Nirvana realm, it was still unknown whether he could reach the Nirvana rebirth realm. Xingqian only wanted these things, especially the Samsara sword and the method to refine corpse slaves. He was determined to get it. How could Longao not know what Xingqian meant? Master, I know what to do. Liu Li was very worried because Xingqian was known for being ruthless. If the master did not agree, not to mention the rise of the sect in the future, it was unknown whether they could survive. He cursed in his heart. Longao turned and left. Soon, the 2 figures disappeared from Liu Li Peak. What was the meaning of Longao's words? Looking at the disappearing figures, Xingqian's face turned ugly. Before Xingqian could say anything, he suddenly sneered and said, I like this person's character. How dare he go against my will? I want to see how arrogant he can be. Dragon sect branch inside the main hall. Master, Xingqian has appeared. If nothing unexpected happens, Xingqian will not let this matter go. Longao knew clearly about Liu Li's worries. Elder Liu Li immediately spread the news that Xingqian is still alive. I want to see what the situation outside is like. Yes. Liu Li understood the master's meaning very well. She did not dare to hesitate and immediately left the main hall. Half an hour later, the old ancestor of the Azura Palace, Xingqian, the super great devil who ruled the world 10,000 years ago, had suddenly appeared in the world. When the news was spread, it instantly shook the world. Xingqian's reputation was too great. If he did not fall, wouldn't he bring harm to the world again? If it was any other time, the 10-direction cauldron would be shocked when they received the news of Xingqian's rebirth. After all, the 10 of them had joined hands to kill Xingqian. But now, the 10-direction cauldron each had their own ulterior motives. How could they continue to work together to deal with Xingqian? Xingqian took advantage of this and dared to show himself. Otherwise, no matter how powerful he was, He would not be able to dominate the world if he did not break through to the peak of the martial Tao. The current Xingquan had restrained himself a lot. Otherwise, according to Xingquan's methods in the past, once he was reborn, he would definitely cause a reign of terror in the world. Master, the news of Xingquan's rebirth has been spread. However, the 10-direction cauldron has not made any moves. It seems like no one will deal with Xingquan in this situation. We are in big trouble. Regarding this point, Longao had long guessed it. Now that the world was in turmoil, the 10-direction cauldron could not even take care of themselves. Not to mention the 10-direction cauldron joining hands, no one would dare to make a move. In this chaotic world, no one would want to rise, no one wanted to be eliminated. Just like what Liu Li had said, if this was the case, he would be in big trouble. It was almost impossible to kill Xingquan by relying on the formation alone. What should he do? Longao was very gloomy, because this time, he was still thinking of subduing the Liu Li sect so that he could quickly rise in the Sky Martial continent. However, he never thought that a Nirvana rebirth warrior would suddenly appear out of nowhere from the Azura Palace. This completely messed up his plan. Elder Liu Li, what do you think we should do now? Master, forgive me for being blunt. With our current strength, we are no match for them. As the saying goes, where there is life, there is hope. Why don't we hide for a while? If we choose to fight them head-on, I'm afraid the final result will be very disadvantageous for us. Master, I have a very hidden place. I believe the Azura Palace will have a hard time finding us. Chapter 1620. Liu Li only meant one thing, and that was to withdraw. If it were any other time, Longao would have definitely chosen to compromise. But now, the continent was in chaos. Once they withdrew, it would be much more difficult to make a comeback. Elder Liu Li, do you know why I've come to you this time? He shook his head. Liu Li was still very depressed. He didn't know why the Azura Palace and Longao had come to him. After all, he just wanted to become a second-rate force. That was all. You're a wolf in sheep's clothing. You're very shrewd. I like your character. That was all. Liu Li became more and more depressed when he heard Longao's reason. If he had known, he wouldn't have concealed his strength. Instead, he would have directly unleashed his full strength. Longao smiled. All of a sudden. Elder Liu Li, do you know what the peak of the martial path is? Master, I know very well. Please get straight to the point, Master. Liu Li was a little confused. Until now, he still didn't know what Longao meant. The peak of the martial path is also known as the Starry Sky Realm. Longao didn't hide anything from Liu Li, because in Longao's view, Liu Li was a trustworthy person. Because of this, he roughly told him about the peak of the martial path. After hearing it, Liu Li was extremely shocked. Because it could be said that he knew nothing about what Longao had said. Even so, what could he do? In Liu Li's view, whether it was the peak of the martial path or the Starry Sky Realm, it had nothing to do with him. He was just perceiving the world. Not to mention the Starry Sky Realm, even the oneness of heaven and man realm was very difficult to break through. Elder Liu Li, if there's a chance for you to break through to the Starry Sky Realm, would you accept it? Huh? He still seemed a little confused. Could he break through to the Starry Sky Realm? Liu Li shook his head with a smile and sighed helplessly. Master, don't joke with me. How can I reach the Starry Sky Realm? As everyone knew, there were only two peak experts in the Tianwu continent. One was the marvelous mathematician, and the other was the heavenly path. I'm not joking. He still had a helpless smile on his face. However, when Liu Li looked at Longao who was right in front of her, she suddenly had a strange expression on her face. Master, what do you mean? I already treat you as one of my own. To be honest, I've already obtained the inheritance of the Starry Sky, but it's not me. It's my family. I believe that in less than 10 years, the Dragon Sect will have a Starry Sky warrior. Huh? Liu Li was completely shocked because she knew very well that the master in front of her didn't seem to be lying. If this was true, it would be a little inconceivable. Elder Liu Li, I only have one goal right now, and that is to rise to power. Once my family reaches the starry sky, the martial heaven continent will be dominated by the dragon sect. There was not the slightest doubt. Liu Li knew very well that if this was true, then the dragon sect would be able to dominate the mainland in the future. At that time, no matter who it was, even if it was a tripod of 10 forces, they would not be able to compete with the dragon sect. Even so, what did this have to do with her? Liu Li knew very well that with her strength, she could at most become an elder of the dragon sect. Even if Longao could obtain the inheritance of the starry sky, why would he give it to her? Let alone Longao, she believed that no matter who it was, they wouldn't give such an important thing to an outsider. Seeing the expression on Liu Li's face, Longao knew what Liu Li was thinking. Elder Liu Li, you will definitely become a starry sky warrior in the future. At this point, Longao did not continue. As for whether she believed it or not, that was up to Liu Li. Master, what should we do next? Whether or not she could reach the starry sky realm was a matter for the future. The only thing she had to do now was help the dragon sect avoid this crisis because the current branch of the dragon sect was the Liu Li sect. According to my guess, if nothing unexpected happens, Xing Kuan won't easily make a move against us before he's completely confident. Was that true? Liu Li naturally didn't choose to believe it, but since the master had said so, what else could she say? Since he had already chosen to submit to Longao, he would not have the slightest bit of regret. Just as Longao had guessed, Xing Kuan wouldn't casually make a move before he was completely confident. The current Xing Kuan was no longer the Xing Kuan of 10,000 years ago. Otherwise, he wouldn't have died back then. In front of the Liu Li peak, Xing Kuan wasn't surprised at all because he had guessed that Longao would definitely leak the news of his reappearance. However, Xing Kuan was confident that with the current chaotic situation of the continent, the 10-directional cauldron wouldn't casually make a move against him unless there was something wrong with their heads. No matter what, Xing Kuan had full confidence in his own strength. Standing behind the matriarch, Xing Kuan didn't dare to say a word. He didn't know what the matriarch was afraid of. After all, no one in the Liu Li sect was a match for the matriarch. As long as the matriarch gave the word, the sect would slaughter its way into the Liu Li sect. In less than an hour, the Liu Li sect would disappear from the martial heaven continent. Longao isn't simple. If my guess isn't wrong, his relationship with the god diviner isn't as simple as it seems. Xing Kuan naturally knew about the battle in the sword sect. The god diviner had appeared for no reason and even sided with Longao. Everyone knew that this matter wasn't as simple as it seemed. Matriarch, are we just going to stay here forever? In Xing Kuan's opinion, if the god diviner was siding with Longao, he wouldn't give the 3 superpowers any chance. That was why Xing Kuan wanted to slaughter his way into the Liu Li sect. I don't want to make the slightest mistake. 10,000 years ago, I failed once. Now that I've been reborn, I won't fail again. I can't afford to lose. I hope that during this chaos, I'll be able to obtain core energy and break through to the peak of the martial path. Otherwise, in 3 years, all of us will die. Xing Kuan jumped in fright. He didn't know what the matriarch was saying. On the martial heaven continent, there were no less than 10 people who had broken through to the nirvanic rebirth realm. Xing Kuan really couldn't understand. Other than the god diviner and the heavenly Daos, who else could kill the matriarch? Could it be the god diviner and the heavenly Daos? Your guess is correct. The heavenly Daos have already left. The god diviner will be in seclusion for 3 years. Other than changing the power structure of the continent, he won't give the heavenly Daos a chance. In 3 years, if the god diviner loses, all of us will be killed by the heavenly Daos. It will be just like 10,000 years ago when the heavenly Daos killed all the peak experts of the martial path. Chapter 1621. Tian Dao. How could Xing not know the strength of Tian Dao? If it was as the old ancestor said, then as long as Tian Dao was willing, he could kill all the Nirvana rebirth warriors in the continent at any time. One had to know that the way of the heavens could even kill other experts at the pinnacle of martial arts. One could imagine how terrifying Tian Dao's strength was. Xing finally knew what the old ancestor was afraid of. Could it be that he had to keep guarding like this? Xing Xing was more or less depressed because guarding like this was not a solution. After all, the current Sky Martial continent was in chaos. If he missed this opportunity, it would be much harder to rise up in the future. What happened to Xingdan? Xing Xing shrugged helplessly. As for why Xingdan had entered the Liu Li sect, he had no clue as to why she had perished and been refined into a corpse slave. Old ancestor, I don't know either. He seemed to have thought of something. Old ancestor, why don't we continue to send people into Liu Li sect? He shook his head. Waving his hand, Xing Kuan was also a little afraid. Otherwise, Xing Kuan would not have kept guarding here and would have killed his way into Liu Li sect. Even Xingdan was refined into a corpse slave. It seems that Liu Li sect is a little strange. Hearing the old ancestor's words, Xing Xing was depressed to the extreme. Xing Xing, how many Azura scorpions do we have left? Azura scorpions? Could it be that the old ancestor wanted to use Azura scorpions? Shocked, Xing Xing answered truthfully, Old ancestor, 10,000 years ago, our Azura scorpions were exterminated by the 10-direction cauldron. After 10,000 years of cultivation, we still have hundreds of thousands of them. Hundreds of thousands of Azura scorpions. If this matter was known by the 10-direction cauldron, it would cause panic. Azura scorpions, 10,000 years ago, other than Xing Kuan's own strength, the Azura scorpions that he cultivated were also super evil creatures. Every Azura scorpion's strength was about the same, all of them were in the divine realm. What kind of concept was that? Hundreds of thousands of Azura scorpions, and every Azura scorpion had poison. As long as a person touched it, even if it was a supreme divine realm martial artist, or even a nirvana martial artist, they would immediately be infected by the poison and die in a few seconds. This was the terror of Azura scorpions. Send 10,000 Azura scorpions to attack Liu Li sect. Yes, ancestor. I'll do it right away. Even if he was extremely unwilling, the Azura Berserk scorpion was a terrifying divine beast nurtured by the old ancestor. He had no right to say anything. Furthermore, he was well aware of the old ancestor's personality. Even if he was the old ancestor's junior disciple, as long as the old ancestor was displeased, the old ancestor would kill him at any time. Branch of the Dragon Sect. In the main hall. 2 whole days had passed, but the Azura Palace still hadn't taken any action. This made Longao a little puzzled. Could it be that the Azura Palace had chosen to give up? It was absolutely impossible because Longao knew Xing Kuan's character very well. If he chose to give up so easily, then he would not be the legendary Xing Kuan. Master, I've just received news that the people of the Azura Palace are still guarding outside. They haven't taken a single step out. So that was the case. Longao was not surprised at all, because he had already guessed that the Azura Palace would not give up so easily. It would be strange if the Azura Palace left. If nothing goes wrong, it seems like the Azura Palace will soon invade. How could Liu Li not know? However, since things had already come to this, it wouldn't be easy to leave now. Cut the weeds and dig up the roots to prevent any future troubles. Master, why don't we move first? All along, Liu Li had been advocating to retreat first, and then take revenge. However, Longao's idea was the exact opposite of Liu Li's. Before Longao could say anything. Right at this moment, earth-shaking rustling sounds came from outside, and a bloody smell came from outside. Longao and Liu Li, who were in the middle of a discussion, sensed the horrifying smell of blood. Both of their faces changed. They looked at each other. Neither of them knew what was going on. However, both of them knew that this was definitely related to the Azura Palace. It seemed like the Azura Palace couldn't wait any longer. Both of them immediately left the main hall. In the blink of an eye, they were already outside the main hall. As soon as they stepped out, both of them were dumbfounded. At first glance, there were densely packed scorpions everywhere. Each scorpion was the size of a human. Their eyes emitted cold, killing intent, and their bodies emitted a horrifying bloody smell. Azura Berserk scorpions. Azura Berserk scorpions? What was that? Of course, Liu Li knew that Longao definitely didn't know what the Azura Berserk scorpions were. However, Liu Li used her fastest speed to explain the general situation of the Azura Berserk Scorpions. Tens of thousands of divine beast Azura Berserk Scorpions, and each of them carried a deadly poison. Such a horrifying army could easily wipe out the entire continent. Longao finally knew why the 10 Direction Cauldrons wanted to join hands to kill Xingqian 10,000 years ago. Putting aside Xingqian's strength, just these horrifying Azura Berserk Scorpions were enough to slaughter the entire continent. Screams could be heard one after another. Although Longao and Liu Li were strong, it wasn't realistic for them to wipe out tens of thousands of Azura Berserk Scorpions in one fell swoop. The Azura Berserk Scorpions were extremely horrifying. In just 10 minutes, everyone in the Dragon Sect's branch was covered. Other than Longao and Liu Li, no one could come out alive. The entire Liu Li peak was filled with a strong bloody smell. Longao immediately summoned Xingdan. Even so, Xingdan couldn't withstand the attack of the Azura Berserk Scorpions. The two of them retreated step by step. Master, the array. Array? If the array could be activated, why would Longao wait for so long? He didn't know what was going on. When the Azura Berserk Scorpions were slaughtering everyone, Longao was already prepared to activate the array. However, no matter how he tried, the array couldn't be activated. What was going on? Liu Li, the moment you and I leave, I believe that Xingqian will attack us. Therefore, we must. Before Longao could speak, Xingqian's voice was heard. Longao, my conditions are still valid. As long as you hand over everything, I can let you go. Otherwise, you won't even have a corpse left. Trash. Things had already reached this stage. Longao knew very well that even if he chose to compromise, there would only be one result. He would be killed by the other party. Xingqian was such a cruel person. How could he leave any trouble for him? It was a joke. Master, I have a secret passage. As long as we are careful, I believe that Xingqian won't be able to track us. Chapter 1622. Was he going to leave just like that? Longao wanted to take advantage of the chaos to rise, but he never expected to meet Xingqian. What a scam. Should he continue to stay or leave? Liu Li, you leave first. I would like to meet Xingqian. Ah! Liu Li was shocked when she heard what her master said. With her master's strength, it was unrealistic for him to fight against Xingqian. Master. She waved her hand. Longao knew what Liu Li wanted to say. He smiled and said, Liu Li, don't worry about me. If Xingqian can keep me here, I don't need to continue. He didn't continue. Longao stood up and took a deep look in front of him. Then, he disappeared from the hall. Looking at the endless Azura Scorpions swarming over, even if he was a Nirvana realm expert, he still felt numb. I hope Master can come back safely. Liu Li didn't hesitate and left quickly. Outside Liu Li Peak. Looking at the young man in front of him, Xingqian felt small. He had full confidence in the Azura Scorpions army that he cultivated. Not to mention Emperor gods, even Nirvana realm experts wouldn't be able to withstand the attack of the Azura Scorpions army. Longao, you are a smart man. In Xingqian's opinion, since Longao had come out, he would definitely choose to compromise. As for Liu Li's life, Xingqian didn't care. Xingqian, if I want to leave, I'm afraid you won't be able to stop me. Is that so? Why don't you try? Without waiting for Xingqian to finish speaking, Longao's figure instantly disappeared. With the help of spatial teleportation, Longao appeared thousands of meters away with just a few teleportations. However, at this moment, Longao was prepared to teleport away, but no matter what, he couldn't teleport away. The space ripples were disrupted. Ha ha ha, Longao, I know you have a space divine device. If I didn't take precautions, you would have escaped. Hearing Xingqian's words, Longao calmed down. With the Samsara sword in his hand, Longao coldly looked at the Azura Scorpions that suddenly appeared around him. There were so many of them. Not to mention tens of thousands, at a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of them. Although Longao believed in his own strength, he was also aware of his own limitations. As the saying went, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Taking the initiative to attack, Longao took a big stride forward. His entire body dashed out. Before he arrived, the reincarnation sword in his hand had already been drawn. The reincarnation sword light flashed like lightning. The reincarnation sword light could even break through the domain of heaven and earth, let alone the Azura scorpion. The Azura violent scorpion was only at the divine Tao realm. Other than having powerful poison, how could his own strength be able to contend with Longao? Longao knew the poison of the Shura scorpions very well, so he didn't get close to the Shura scorpions at all. He just relied on the reincarnation sword light to kill the Shura scorpions around him. Samsara sword light, sword chi shield. Not far away, 100 meters away. Master, at this speed, our Azura violent scorpions will continue to be killed. I'm afraid. Before Xingkuan finished speaking, he had already been interrupted by Xingkuan. He said, Longao is not simple. This time, no matter what, we have to kill him to avoid endless troubles. Even Xingkuan was very afraid of Longao. As the saying went, seeing with one's own eyes was the most real thing. Xingkuan had never believed the various legends about Longao. But now, with so many treasures on Longao's body, it was enough to shock the world. Xingkuan knew that it was very difficult to kill Longao with only the Azura violent scorpions. He gave the order. The surrounding Azura violent scorpions all retreated. In a short while, the Azura violent scorpions had all disappeared. Xingkuan's figure quickly left. Even Longao couldn't contend with the suppression of the primordial spirit. If they met force with force, they would only be at a disadvantage. The reason why Longao didn't choose to leave with Liu Li was very simple. Even if he lost this battle, he could tell the world that he, Longao, hadn't left the stage. In just 3 moves, Longao was hit continuously. If it wasn't for his strong defense, Longao would have died at this moment. Go! Longao summoned Xingdan and turned to leave quickly. As a corpse slave, Xingdan wasn't afraid of death at all. Like a moth to a flame, she kept attacking Xingkuan. Don't chase. Just as Xingkuan was about to chase after Xingdan, Xingkuan suddenly said. Then, the 2 Nirvana Realm warriors joined forces and attacked Xingdan together. Even if Xingdan had an immortal body as a corpse slave, under the fierce attacks of the 2 Nirvana Realm warriors, Xingdan's body gradually fell down in just a few minutes. In a situation where there was an absolute difference in strength, even a corpse slave wouldn't be immortal. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Xingkuan sighed and said, "This is unbelievable. The corpse slave refined by Longao is not only stronger than Xingdan's original body, but also has an abnormal defense. If it wasn't for the old ancestor, I'm afraid even I wouldn't be able to kill the corpse slave refined by Xingdan. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, he would find it hard to believe. Under normal circumstances, the difference between comprehending the heavens and earth and becoming one with the heavens was like the difference between heaven and earth. However, after Xingdan was refined into a corpse slave, not only did her strength become stronger, her defense also became stronger. With the combination of the two, even if Xingdan wasn't his own strength, Xingkuan knew clearly that it wouldn't be easy for him to kill Xingdan. Nodding his head, Xingkuan was also shocked. Because of this, he was determined to get Longao's method of refining a corpse slave. Again, if he could get the method of refining a corpse slave, it would be a great help to the Azura Palace. From now on, search for Longao's whereabouts secretly. Remember, don't tell anyone about the grudge between us and Longao. Although Xingkuan didn't know what the old ancestor meant, he still nodded his head and said, "I'll do it right away." Far away, Longao, who was hiding behind the big tree, didn't leave. Instead, he watched as the crowd slowly disappeared from his sight. Longao's face was very serious. If he knew that the Azura Palace had a super expert like Xingkuan, he wouldn't have touched the Liu Li sect. He would have looked for other sects. However, since it had already happened, he wouldn't back down. He wasn't afraid of the 3 superpowers, let alone the Azura Palace. In Longao's opinion, it didn't matter if he had one more powerful enemy. Longao found Liu Li first and asked straightforwardly, Elder Liu Li, the two sects that don't get along well with the Azura Palace, are they the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame sect? Liu Li didn't know what the master wanted, but she still nodded her head. Chapter 1623. Master, just as you said, the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame sect are the Azura Palace's mortal enemies. Elder Liu Li, with our strength, I'm afraid it's impossible for us to fight against Xingkuan and the Azura Palace. Liu Li nodded. Liu Li was very clear about the difference in strength between them and the Azura Palace. It was almost impossible for them to fight against Xingkuan. What did the master mean by this? Before Liu Li could ask, Longao said, I want to rope in the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame sect to fight against the Azura Palace together. Impossible. Without even thinking about it, Liu Li had already said very firmly. Hearing the master's next step, Liu Li was a little dumbfounded. She couldn't understand whether the master was crazy or not. Even if the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame sect had a grudge against the Azura Palace, under such circumstances, unless the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame sect had lost their minds, it was impossible for them to attack the Azura Palace. Xingkuan. If it was in the past, the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame sect would definitely agree. After all, destroying the Azura Palace would only bring benefits to the two sects. There was no harm. But now, the situation was completely different. Putting aside the Azura Palace's strength, Xingkuan alone was enough to look down on the Sky Martial continent. Not to mention the Cloud Valley and the Purple Flame sect, even the 10 great forces wouldn't dare to provoke Xingkuan. A Nirvana rebirth warrior wasn't a joke. Cloud Valley. As a second-rate power, if Xingkuan was excluded, then the Cloud Valley's strength would be on par with the Azura Palace. The Cloud Valley's Valley Master, Yunluotian, was on par with Xingkuan. Both of them had reached the realm of one with the heavens. Not only that, Yunluotian's younger brother, Yunfeng, was a Nirvana realm warrior who had comprehended the heavens and earth. Longao went straight to the point. He went straight to Yunluotian and Yunfeng and said, I believe the two of you already know who I am. Looking at Longao and Liu Li, both Yunluotian and Yunfeng were shocked. They didn't know why the two of them would appear here at this time. The Cloud Valley already knew that the Azura Palace had destroyed the Liu Li sect and that Xingkuan was still alive. Master Long, Elder Liu Li, may I know the purpose of your visit? It was common knowledge. Liu Li sect had already surrendered to Longao. Although it was very shocking, the facts were in front of him. The two of them could clearly sense that the Longao in front of them was not a Nirvana realm martial artist, but a mere Emperor God martial artist. Liu Li was a genuine Nirvana realm martial artist. A Nirvana realm martial artist submitting to a God Emperor martial artist. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. Master Yun, the purpose of my visit this time is very simple. There is only one thing. I hope that your Cloud Valley will submit to my dragon sect. Heh! Longao's sudden words, whether it was Liu Li or the other two, seemed to be somewhat dumbfounded. Could it be that this person was a lunatic? Master. Elder Liu Li, leave this to me. Since Longao had already said so, even if Liu Li had 10,000 worries in his heart, he could only forcefully endure it. Yun Luoshan's face had already become extremely gloomy, as ugly as it could get. Not to mention Longao, even Liu Li would not dare to be so arrogant in the face of punishment. Unless Xingkuan personally came, perhaps they would choose to compromise. However, if Longao chose to submit, where would their dignity go? To be honest, Yun Luoshan and Yunfeng actually looked down on Liu Li. As a Nirvana realm martial artist, it was simply a disgrace to submit to an Emperor God martial artist. Longao, are you provoking us? I'm not provoking you. I'm helping you. Hearing Longao's words, the two of them laughed. Helping us? Asking us to submit, is this helping us? At the same time, Yun Luoshan and Yunfeng released a terrifying murderous aura that did not dissipate for a long time. However, Longao acted as if he did not see it and completely ignored the two of them. Longao, I'll give you a chance. As long as you get out of Cloud Valley now, I'll let bygones be bygones. How about it? Are you unwilling? Nonsense. If it wasn't for Yun Luoshan stopping him, Yun Feng would have already attacked. This was because he had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen such arrogant people. A mere Emperor God martial artist did not even care about Cloud Valley. Cloud Valley had 2 Nirvana Realm martial artists. Cloud Valley Master, I can guarantee that within 3 days, Cloud Valley will be in great trouble. At that time, Cloud Valley will be in chaos and everyone will die. Just as he finished speaking, before the two of them could finish speaking, Longao had already left with Liu Li. Big brother, why didn't you let me attack? Are you really afraid? I don't believe that we can't kill these 2 people with our combined power. Anger. Endless anger. It was an insult to be provoked by Longao in front of everyone. If this matter were to spread, where would their reputation go? Yun Luoshan, on the other hand, was much calmer than Shifeng had expected. Indifferently, he said, second brother, Longao is not a simple person. He is capable of resisting 3 superpowers. Moreover, even Xing Kuan is helpless against him. If we act rashly and fail to kill him, I believe we will be in great trouble. Big brother, aren't you overestimating Longao? Regardless of whether it was Yun Luoshan or Yun Feng, the 2 of them did not care about Liu Li at all. What a joke. No matter what, Longao was only an Emperor God martial artist and Liu Li was a Nirvana Realm martial artist. Under normal circumstances, the person that the 2 of them should care about was Liu Li and not Longao. I didn't overestimate this person at all. Second brother, pass down my order. No one is allowed to leave the sect for the next 3 days. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy. It seemed that he still wanted to say something, but the words had already reached his mouth, and he abruptly swallowed them back. Until now, Yun Feng still couldn't figure out why his elder brother was so afraid of Longao. Could it be that he had heard those so-called legends? It was a little too ridiculous. However, the Cloud Valley Master was his big brother after all, not him. Since his elder brother had given the order, as the second brother, he couldn't go against it. Yun Feng immediately turned around and left. When the order was sent out, everyone in the Cloud Valley was shocked. No one knew why the sect would do this. Under such circumstances, the sect should have gone all out to fight for the chance to rise in this chaotic world. However, no one dared to say anything because it was an order personally given by the Cloud Valley Master. Not to mention others, even the Cloud Valley Master's younger brother, the second strongest martial artist in the Cloud Valley, did not dare to go against the Cloud Valley Master's order. Just like that, the entire Cloud Valley was sealed and no one was allowed to leave. Chapter 1624. Leaving the Cloud Valley. Until now, Liu Li still did not know what the Master wanted to do. In 3 days, the Cloud Valley would be in big trouble. It sounded unrealistic. Master, what should we do now? With regards to Liu Li's meaning, Longao knew clearly. Elder Liu Li, spread the word that the Cloud Valley has formed an alliance with us to deal with the Azura Palace. Instantly, Liu Li understood the Master's intention. He wanted to use the Azura Palace to deal with the Cloud Valley and force them to submit. Although it was a little shameless, in this chaotic world, only the winner would be the king and the loser would be the bandit. As for the process, he believed that no one would ask. Liu Li was still a little worried. Master, will the Azura Palace believe this? If the Azura Palace did not believe it, wouldn't it be a waste of time? Longao's face was filled with confidence. He smiled and said, "Trust me." Since things had come to this point, Liu Li did not say anything more. She immediately turned and left, spreading the news that Longao had just told her. 2 hours later, Liu Li had already settled the matter. The news of the Cloud Valley forming an alliance with the Dragon Sect to deal with the Azura Palace had spread across the entire Sky Martial continent. If it was any other time, it would definitely shock the entire continent. Only at this time, no one was willing to pay attention to the grudges between the 2 sects. Because in this chaotic world, no one knew what would happen next. If they were not careful, they would disappear from the continent forever. Azura Palace. Inside the main hall. Xing Fei hastily entered the main hall. Looking at the old ancestor in front of him, he even forgot to bow. He said impatiently, "Old ancestor, I have just received news that the Cloud Valley has formed an alliance with Longao. They have declared that they will deal with us together." He was not surprised at all. Xing Kuan sneered and said, "It's just a small cloud valley. We can use this opportunity to destroy it." In Xing Kuan's eyes, a small cloud valley was nothing. With the Azura Palace and his strength, destroying the Cloud Valley was just a matter of minutes. So what if the Cloud Valley had 2 Nirvana Realm warriors? "Old ancestor, I will bring my men to destroy the Cloud Valley now." He waved his hand. Xing Kuan stopped the punishment and said indifferently, "It will be very difficult for all of you to resist the formation set up by Longao. Ancestor, is Longao really a divine array master?" Until now, Xing Fei still couldn't quite believe that Longao was a divine array master. He was so talented in both martial arts and formations. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe that there was such a super genius in the world. What a god-ranked array master meant, punishment was very clear in his heart. Among array masters, god-level array masters were the true pinnacle existences. According to what the old ancestor had said, once Longao set up a divine array master with his current strength, not to mention someone like Xing Dan who had comprehended the heaven and earth, even a Nirvana Realm martial artist would find it difficult to break the array. However, it wouldn't be easy for Longao to kill a Nirvana Realm martialist or a Nirvana Realm martialist with the help of the array formation. Let's not talk about you. I'm also very curious about how Longao cultivated a god-ranked array master. This kid must die. Otherwise, we will have a lot of trouble in the future. Xing Kuan wasn't afraid of Longao's strength. In his opinion, even if Longao could reach the Nirvana realm in the future, he wouldn't be able to defeat him. The true number 1 under the heavenly Tao wasn't just for show. The only thing that Xing Kuan was afraid of was Longao's array. A divine-level array master, not to mention 1 against 10,000, even 1 against a few million would be a piece of cake. Killing enemies above his level was even more easy. "Chief-elect, you will go with me." Chief-elect. Xing Kuan was overjoyed when he heard that the old ancestor wanted Chief-elect to go with him. Chief-elect's array formation skills were above Longao's, not to mention his strength. Chief-elect was of medium height and had a face full of pimples. His eyes were especially black and bright. Chief-elect was also a god-ranked array master, but his strength was far above Longao's. His cultivation had already broken through the heaven and earth realm. Among array masters of the same level, the more powerful the array master was, the more powerful the array master was. For example, the same array, but Chief-elect and Longao were 1 level apart in terms of cultivation. Therefore, the power of the array they set up was slightly different. "Big brother, I can't kill Longao with my strength." Xing Kuan nodded. How could he not know that if it was anyone else, Chief-elect could easily kill an Emperor Realm martialist without using the array formation? However, Longao's situation was completely different. This didn't mean that Longao was strong, but that the treasures he possessed were too heaven-defying. Let's not talk about other things first. Just the mysterious sword in Longao's hand could break through the heaven and earth realm. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. It was simply unbelievable. "Chief-elect, only you can break Longao's array formation. As for Longao, I believe that with you and Punishment Master working together, we can definitely kill him. In that case, big brother, I'll make a trip." "Okay." Punishment Master and Chief-elect didn't continue to hesitate. The two of them immediately got up and left the main hall, heading towards Cloud Valley. Previously at the Colored Glass Peak, Longao couldn't activate the hundreds of arrays he set up for no reason. The reason was because Chief-elect was also a god-ranked array master and his array formation skills were above Longao's. Otherwise, Chief-elect wouldn't have been able to break the hundreds of arrays without anyone noticing. However, this was also related to Longao's carelessness. Arrays were dead. As long as Longao didn't activate the arrays, it would be too easy for a god-ranked array master to break them. Within the main hall, Xing Kuan was the only one left. What I've lost back then, I'm going to take it back in double this time around. 10 directional cauldrons. Just you wait. Once I succeed at the final step, I'll make all of you pay the price. Soon, soon. Ha 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 ha. Laughing maniacally, Xing Kuan's face was bewildered. Cloud Valley, following the departure of Longao and Colored Glass, Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng didn't really believe that Longao could really cause trouble for Cloud Valley in just 3 days. However, they had to be careful. After all, it was better to be safe than sorry. Big brother, I told you that Longao was just trying to scare us. Now that 3 days have passed, big brother, I suggest that we cancel the lockdown. Who knows, Longao might have already left. Yun Luoshan was scolding Longao in his heart. It was precisely because of this that Cloud Valley was locked down for 3 days for no reason, causing everyone to be in a state of panic. Not only that, to miss out on this opportunity in such a chaotic world was something extremely unlucky for Cloud Valley. Yes. Before Yun Luoshan could even finish his words, an earth-shattering sound came from outside. Chapter 1625. What's going on? Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng were slightly surprised as they could clearly sense 2 terrifying auras shrouding the sect. Nirvana Realm Warriors. There were 2 Nirvana Realm Warriors outside and the 2 auras were aggressive and provocative. Who were they? The 2 of them looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. Because Longao had once said that within 3 days, the Cloud Valley would be in big trouble. Originally, he thought that Longao was just bluffing, but he didn't expect that trouble would really come. There was no hesitation. Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng immediately left the main hall. As soon as they stepped out, they saw the chief-elect and Xing standing in the sky. Azura Palace? Neither Yun Luoshan nor Yun Feng seemed to have expected the punishment, and their faces were filled with shock. Although the Azura Palace and Cloud Valley had a huge grudge against each other, the Azura Palace had no reason to take action under such circumstances. Could it be Longao? Suddenly, the 2 of them realized that this matter must have something to do with Longao. Borrowing a knife to kill. The 2 of them cursed in their hearts. Hall Master Xing, why have you suddenly come to my Cloud Valley? Xing sneered. The 2 of them slowly flew down from the sky. Although they seemed to be moving slowly, they were actually moving very fast. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived before Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng. Valley Master Yun, I heard that the Cloud Valley has formed an alliance with Longao to deal with us. Is this true? I see. Hearing Xing's words, Yun Luoshan had already guessed what Longao wanted to do. How shameless. Borrowing a knife to kill was really ruthless. However, would the 2 of them fall for it? Yun Luoshan had underestimated the Azura Palace. Master Xing, you really like to joke. How could I form an alliance with Longao to deal with the Azura Palace? Xing wouldn't believe it if it was under normal circumstances. However, the situation was completely different now. The continent was in chaos. Everyone wanted to rise in this chaotic world, including the Azura Palace and the Cloud Valley. Because of this, it was reasonable for the Cloud Valley to form an alliance with Longao to deal with the Azura Palace. Would the punishment choose to believe? It was better to be safe than sorry. What if the Longao really formed an alliance with Cloud Valley? It was better to be safe than sorry. Under such circumstances, the punishment would rather kill 1,000 innocents than let one go. Valley Master Yun, do you think that I will believe you? Looking at the punishment in front of him, Yun Luoshan cried out in his heart, oh no. Master Xing, without giving Yun Luoshan a chance to speak, Xing Fa said impatiently, cut the crap. You want me to believe you? Sure, but as long as you hand over Longao and Liu Li, the grudge between us will be written off. Otherwise, punishment didn't say anything, but the meaning behind his words was very clear. If it was just punishing 2 Nirvana Realm Warriors, Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng would not care about it. Mount Yun Luo was the unity of heaven and man. Cloud Peak was the enlightenment of heaven and earth. There was only one person that both of them were afraid of, and that was the Azura Palace's old ancestor, Xing Kuan. 10,000 years ago, he was known as the strongest person under the heavenly Tao. Provoking Xing Kuan would only lead to destruction. Unless it was absolutely necessary, both of them would never want to start a war with the Azura Palace. Master Xing, to be honest, 3 days ago, the Longao did come to me and asked me to join hands with him to deal with you. However, I rejected him without even thinking about it. Please believe me. Cold eyes. Senior Chief-elect, do you believe me? The Chief-elect always had the same expression on his face, an ice-cold look. Without any emotion, the Chief-elect's voice sounded like it came from hell. He said coldly, I only know my big brother's order. Since we are going to die anyway, it doesn't matter if the Cloud Valley has formed an alliance with the Longao or not. What did he mean? Hearing the Chief-elect's words, not only were Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng dumbfounded, even Xing Fa was surprised. However, Xing Fa was very clear. What the Chief-elect said was right. With the grudge between the Azura Palace and the Cloud Valley, they would have to settle it sooner or later. Even if the Longao and the Cloud Valley didn't form an alliance, killing the Cloud Valley would only bring benefits to the Azura Palace. Thinking of this. Before Yun Luoshan could say anything, Xing Fa said coldly, Yun Luoshan, you asked for it. You can't blame anyone else. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Yun Luoshan already knew that the Azura Palace wanted his life. They wanted to destroy the Cloud Valley. Even without the Longao, the Azura Palace would still do the same. Since that was the case, there was no point for him to say anything. Was this really the doing of the Longao? The matter had already reached this point, and Yunluo Mountain was still in a dilemma. Whether this matter was done by Longao or not, it could be considered as a weirdo. Just as Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng were about to attack, the Chief-elect and Xing Fa retreated. Suddenly, the two figures disappeared without a trace. Ah! Looking at the two figures that disappeared, their expressions changed drastically. They seemed to have guessed something. Yun Feng scolded, damn it. Big brother, this is not good. It's an illusion formation. Yun Luoshan nodded. How could he not know that they were trapped in a formation? If he hadn't experienced it himself, he wouldn't have believed that the two of them were trapped in a formation in their base. Was this for real? Retreat. Yun Luoshan, it's too late. At this moment, Xing Fa's voice was heard. In the next second, there was no longer any palace around them. There was only a huge black space. It was an illusion formation. A divine-level array master. Looking at the illusion formation around them, even if Yun Luoshan didn't believe it, the truth was right in front of him. The formation that trapped them was indeed a divine-level array master. A divine-level array master could only set it up by a divine-level array master. Big brother, what should we do now? Yun Luo's face was gloomy to the extreme. What did it mean to be a god-level array master? Even with their strength, once they were trapped in a god-level array, it would be a big problem for them to leave safely. What should they do? Yun Luoshan's face was filled with helplessness. He also wanted to know the reason. After thinking for a while, he said, let's wait and see. I also want to see how good the Chief-elect who dominated the world with his formation skills is. The Chief-elect was a peerless figure 10,000 years ago. He didn't have much strength, but he was a divine-level array master. He dominated the world with his formation skills. Ordinary Nirvana realm warriors wouldn't dare to offend him. Even the 10-direction cauldrons didn't dare to offend him. However, they didn't expect that the Chief-elect was related to the Azura Palace. Could it be Xing Kuan's doing? Xing Kuan, a Chief-elect, the number one under the heavenly Tao, and the number one in formation skills. It wasn't hard to imagine how terrifying the strength of the Azura Palace was. P.S. Tomorrow is May 1st, Xiaoju's work is almost done. From tomorrow onwards, Xiaoju will work hard to update the website. I hope everyone will vote for Xiaoju. Thank you. Chapter 1626. Chief-elect was a god-level array master. At this moment, the array that Chief-elect had set up was a god-level array. The illusory array was only one of them. Longao had also set up the array that Chief-elect had set up. It was the Infinite Tornado Illusory Array. Infinite Tornado Illusory Array. Terrifying tornadoes suddenly swept through the entire dark space. A vortex of airflow enveloped the entire space. The two of them were shocked and did not dare to let their guard down. Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. No wonder he was the #1 array master. Chief-elect's array skills were extremely powerful. The two of them were extremely depressed because array masters were so shameless. If they did not fight you head-on, you could only choose to fight the array. There was only one way to force the two of them out, and that was to break the array. As Nirvana realm martial artists, the two of them fought the Infinite Tornado Illusory Array with all their might. The result? As the #1 array master, Chief-elect was not just a figurehead. About 10 minutes later, Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng were gradually unable to hold on. The two of them quickly dodged the huge tornadoes, but the tornadoes were too dense. One after another, they were continuous. Even if the two of them were not array masters, they knew about the current situation. Once they were sucked into the vortex of airflow, they were afraid that they would be doomed. The situation was critical. What should they do? They were not array masters and they had encountered the #1 array master. The two of them were helpless and had no idea what to do. Just as the two of them were in great danger, Longao's figure suddenly appeared. One had to admit that Longao's level of array formation was also incomparably powerful. Otherwise, how could an ordinary array formation master enter the array formation silently? Chief-elect and Chief-elect did not know about this. If the two of them knew about it, what would they think? Longao, I'll give you a chance now. If you choose to submit to me, I'll help you get out. Otherwise, you can fend for yourselves and I won't interfere. Submit. Hearing Longao's words, the two of them cursed in their hearts. Beat a drowning dog. Previously, Longao had said that they were just cooperating. Now that they were in trouble, their cooperation had changed to submission. Reject. The two of them were not fools. They were very clear that this matter was definitely related to Longao. Otherwise, why would Longao appear here for no reason? Could it really be a coincidence? Even if there were 10,000 unwillingness in their hearts, in the current situation, did the two of them have a choice? Longao, we promise you. He was overjoyed. Being able to make Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng compromise and submit to him was undoubtedly a great thing for him. The surrounding air vortexes began to attack wildly. Longao had already guessed that there must be a formation master in the Azura Palace. However, he had never thought that the formation master in charge of the Azura Palace would have such a powerful formation master. He did not dare to hesitate or be careless. With Longao as the center, a huge vortex of air instantly appeared. Before Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng could react, they were sucked into the whirlpool. As for whether the whirlpool could withstand the attack of the formation, even Longao was not sure. Take a gamble. Longao was also taking a gamble. As a formation master, especially a divine-level formation master, he could clearly sense that the formation he was in was a divine-level formation. What did this mean? In addition, the opponent was able to break his formation without making a sound. Longao could almost be sure that this mysterious formation master of the Azura Palace was a divine-level formation master. Not only that, Longao could also be sure that this divine-level formation master's level was far above his own. Looking at his own whirlpool blocking the attacks of the surrounding tornadoes, Longao finally let out a sigh of relief. He couldn't wait any longer and said, "Follow me." Just like this, Longao used his formation master's formation skills to bring the two of them away without making a sound. They came without making a sound and left without making a sound. From the beginning to the end, neither the Chief-elect nor the Punishment Master knew that Longao had come in and out. Otherwise, who knew what they would think, especially the Chief-elect? Someone was able to enter his own formation master's formation. This was simply unbelievable. Lapis Lazuli Peak. The most dangerous place was also the safest place. Even if the Azura Palace was beaten to death, They would never expect Longao to return to the lapis lazuli peak. Master. Looking at the young man in front of them, Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng were extremely depressed. This time, they had failed miserably. If they knew this would happen, they would have chosen to cooperate with Longao instead of submitting to him. Not only that, they had also lost the entire Cloud Valley, a second-rate force. In just half an hour, tens of thousands of people had fallen. If it was in the past, if someone told them this, even if they were beaten to death, they wouldn't believe it. Both of you, in the future, you will be the same as Elder Lapis Lazuli. Both of you will be elders of the Dragon Sect. Seeing the displeasure on their faces, how could Longao not know what the two of them were thinking? He smiled and said, "The two of you, don't think that choosing to submit to my Dragon Sect is a disgrace to you. I can clearly tell you that in the future, you will rejoice over the choice you made today." Really? Both of them didn't believe it at all. However, since it had already happened, they knew that they had no other choice. Both of you, this time, the people who are going after you are from the Azura Palace. I'm curious, since when did the Azura Palace have another formation master? Longao had to be clear about this, because the Azura Palace already had a super expert like Xingkuan. If they had another divine level formation master, then the Azura Palace's strength would reach a whole new level. A mid-level strength was nothing. Longao knew very well that with the Azura Palace's current strength, although they couldn't compete with the 10-direction cauldron, a battle between strong warriors was always earth-shattering. Sometimes, it didn't matter how many people there were. For example, a divine-level formation master could fight against 5 enemies at the same time. For example, the Azura Palace's divine-level formation master and his own formation master could defeat Nirvana Realm warriors. Master, to tell you the truth, we just found out that the chief-elect of the Azura Palace is still alive. He and Xingkuan have successfully reincarnated. Chief-elect? Who was that? Longao knew very well that he didn't know this chief-elect. He had never even heard of him. Could it be that this chief-elect was the same as Xingkuan, a super expert from 10,000 years ago? Just as he expected. I believe that Master has already guessed that this chief-elect was an expert from the same era as Xingkuan. However, the chief-elect was known as the best in formation master. We didn't expect them to be together. Chapter 1627. Number 1 in formations. As soon as Longao entered the formation, he could feel the power of the formation. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was the number 1 in formations. Longao was also surprised. As the number 1 formation master, the chief-elect had chosen to help the Azura Palace. How is the chief-elect's strength? 10,000 years ago, he had already reached the level of comprehending heaven and earth. However, according to the legends, the chief-elect was limited by the formation. It is almost impossible for him to break through the realm of one with the heavens. Comprehending heaven and earth. Even so, Longao knew clearly that the chief-elect's mastery of formations was far above his own. This was going to be troublesome. Master, forgive me for being blunt. Please speak. Longao was a little unhappy. Since Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng had already chosen to submit, they still had other plans. Sect Master, although the Azura Palace is only a second-rate power, with Xingkuan and Chief-Elect in charge, no one would dare to provoke the Azura Palace even if they were the strongest. This was the truth. However, in Longao's ears, it sounded different. In Longao's opinion, the two of them did not believe him at all. They thought that if he went against the Azura Palace head-on, it would be like an egg hitting a rock. They did not care at all. Longao did not blame them either. No matter who it was, they would have the same thoughts as the two of them. No matter what, the Azura Palace's strength was there for all to see. Not to mention, they now had a chief-elect who was known as the number 1 formation master. Yun Luoshan, I know you are not convinced. Now, I will give you another choice. Leave or stay. Looking at Longao, the two of them realized that Longao did not seem to be lying. Could it be that he was really asking them to leave? This did not make sense. The two of them looked at each other. Big brother. Waving his hand, Yunluotian suddenly smiled and said, "Although I don't think highly of you, you can easily enter the formation set up by the chief-elect and fight against 3 superpowers. I will take this gamble. I hope you will not disappoint me." He was not surprised at all. Longao seemed to have guessed that if Yunluotian and Yunfeng chose to leave, they would not choose to submit. Towards the 2 people, Longao could still be considered to be able to understand. The lapis lazuli peak became exceptionally quiet. None of the 4 said anything. Stars dotted the night sky. A gentle breeze blew by. Seeing that Longao had not said anything, the 3 of them did not say anything either. No matter how great the grudges were in the past, since they had chosen to follow Longao, the grudges between Yunluotian and Liu Li would be written off. Nothing needed to be said. The next morning. Next target, Purple Flame Sect. Liu Li was not surprised at all, because Longao had already said that they would deal with the Purple Ember Sect and Cloud Valley first before dealing with the Azura Palace. As for Yunluotian and Yunluotian, their faces were filled with shock. The Purple Ember Sect's strength was on par with the Cloud Valley. The master of the Purple Ember Sect, Zichuan, was also a Nirvana realm warrior who had reached the realm of one with the heavens. As for the Purple Ember Sect, there was also an elder who had reached the realm of one with the heavens. In other words, the Purple Ember Sect also had 2 Nirvana realm warriors. Yunluotian seemed to want to say something, but the words were already at the tip of his tongue. In the end, he swallowed them back. The battle between Longao and the Azura Palace was not noticed by anyone, including the Lapis Lazuli sect and the Cloud Valley. Because it was a time of chaos, they could not even take care of themselves. The Cloud Valley was destroyed by the Azura Palace, and the Purple Ember Sect was also shocked. Among the second-rate powers, the Azura Palace could be ranked first. As for the Purple Ember Sect and the Cloud Valley, they could definitely be ranked in the top 5. Zichuan and Zilin knew clearly that if the Azura Palace could destroy the Cloud Valley, they could also destroy the Purple Ember Sect. After all, not only the Cloud Valley, even the Purple Ember Sect was not on good terms with the Azura Palace. Purple Ember Sect. Zichuan and Zilin's faces were not looking good. Originally, they thought that in this chaotic world, with the Purple Ember Sect's strength, they would be able to rise up. Even if they couldn't reach the top of the 10 directions, they could at least reach the top of the second-rate powers. But the result? Since the Azura Palace could destroy the Cloud Valley, there was no doubt that Xingqian would not let this matter go. At that time, it would not be impossible for him to destroy the Purple Ember Sect, or even the other second-rate powers. Zichuan sighed deeply. Zichuan said helplessly, "The Azura Palace has destroyed the Cloud Valley. I believe that their next target will be us. If I'm not mistaken, not only does Xingqian want to rise up, he also wants to get his hands on the top of the 10 directions." Hearing the master's words, Zilin was shocked. He thought that he had heard it wrong. "Master, the top of the 10 directions is right there. Even if it's Xingqian, it's not possible for him to get his hands on it." What a joke. 10,000 years ago, the top of the 10 directions worked together to destroy Xingqian. After 10,000 years of reincarnation, how could Xingqian find trouble for himself? Unless his brain was flooded with water, or his head was kicked by a donkey. How could Zichuan not know what the first elder meant? He didn't want to believe it either. However, the truth was right before his eyes. "First elder, we must be careful. According to my estimation, the Azura Palace will launch a large-scale attack in less than 3 days. At that time, the Purple Ember Sect will follow in the footsteps of the Cloud Valley and be destroyed." Before Zichuan could finish his words, a voice suddenly came from outside and interrupted him. "Who is it?" Hearing the voice, both Zichuan and Zilin were shocked. The 2 of them couldn't figure out who was able to sneak in without making a sound. One must know that even among the second-rate powers, the Purple Ember Sect was one of the top 5 superpowers. Inside the sect, there were layers of defense. It was as difficult as ascending the heavens to get here, unless it was a Nirvana realm warrior. Could it be that the other party was a Nirvana realm warrior? When they thought of this, their faces became even more solemn. Both of them had guessed that the other party was most likely Shinkuan of the Azura Palace. If that was the case, their sect would be doomed this time. There was no doubt that they would die. Thinking of this, the two of them seemed to be in despair. However, at this moment, the door of the palace was pushed open. 4 people walked in. Zichuan and Zilin knew 3 of them. They weren't Shinkuan, nor were they Shinkuan. They were Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng from the Cloud Valley, and Liu Li from the Colored Glass sect. As for the young man beside the 3 of them, the 2 of them were curious. They didn't know who he was, because the 3 of them were Nirvana realm warriors. Only this young man was a god emperor. However, judging from the expressions on their faces, they seemed to respect this young man. If that was the case, who was he? After thinking for a while, Zichuan suddenly thought of a person. Could this be him? Master Zichuan, long time no see. How have you been? Chapter 1628. Valley Master Yun, may I know the reason for your sudden visit? The Purple Ember sect and Cloud Valley were at odds with each other. If it wasn't for the Azura Palace, the 2 sects would have started a war long ago. Zichuan was curious as to why the 4 of them suddenly came to the sect. 3 Nirvana realm warriors and 1 god emperor. Such terrifying strength was enough to destroy the Purple Ember sect. A smile appeared. Yun Luoshan smiled and said, Brother Zichuan, I am no longer the Valley Master of Cloud Valley. From today onwards, there will be no more Cloud Valley in this world. Ah! Zichuan and Zilin looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. Even if the Cloud Valley was destroyed by the Azura Palace, as long as the 2 Nirvana realm warriors were still around, the Cloud Valley could definitely make a comeback. After all, the Nirvana realm warriors were still there. Before the 2 of them could speak. I am now the Dragon Sect's elder. Dragon Sect? Dragon Sect's elder? The 2 of them were a little dumbfounded. They never thought that Yun Luoshan would choose to submit to Longao. Although they had guessed it, they still couldn't figure it out. Without a doubt. Since Liu Li had followed them here, she must have also chosen to submit to Longao. What exactly happened? This world was a little too crazy. 3 Nirvana realm warriors chose to submit to Longao at the same time. Was this a coincidence? Definitely not. Zichuan knew better than anyone else about their personalities and arrogance. Longao, let's get straight to the point. What are you here for? A smile appeared on Zichuan's face. Longao didn't hide anything and said directly, Zichuan, my purpose is simple. As long as the Purple Ember sect is willing to submit to the Dragon sect, I can guarantee it. Submit. Guarantee? The 2 of them had already guessed the purpose of Longao's visit. They were furious to the extreme. This was too much. Even if they knew that the other party had 3 Nirvana realm warriors and that they would be in a passive position once the battle started, how could they choose to submit? Longao, no matter what happens, we will not submit. Let me give you a piece of advice. You better give up. As the great elder of the Purple Ember sect, Zilin's words represented Zichuan's opinion. After all, Zichuan's silence. He wasn't surprised. It would be strange if the Purple Ember sect was willing to submit to him. However, this time, Longao's victory. If he wanted to rise in this chaotic world, he needed at least 5 Nirvana realm warriors. This was something he had carefully calculated. If the 5 Abyss Masters of the Massacre Abyss were willing to follow him, there would be no need to go through so much trouble. Zichuan, I believe that you already know that Shinkuan is still alive. If my guess is correct, the Azura Highness' next target is the Purple Ember sect. I wonder, how confident are you in defeating the Azura Palace? He didn't have the slightest confidence. Putting aside the strength of the Azura Palace, Shinkuan alone was enough to wipe out the entire Purple Flame sect. His face was gloomy. It would be a lie if he said he wasn't afraid. After all, the Purple Ember sect was built by them. How could they be willing to be destroyed by the Azura Palace? He snorted coldly. Zichuan's face was filled with displeasure as he coldly said, Longao, you don't have to worry about this. Even if we are destroyed by Shinkuan, we will definitely not choose to submit to you. Let me give you a piece of advice. You better give up on this idea. He looked deeply at the two in front of him. Longao had an intuition that no matter what method he came up with, unless he killed the two of them directly, the two of them would never choose to submit to him. All along, Longao had always believed in his own feelings. He knew that Zichuan and Zilin were different from Yunluotian and the others. Since that was the case, was there a need for him to persist? If that's the case, I won't persist. However, Zichuan, the winner is king and the loser is a bandit. One of us must fall. Tomorrow, we'll rely on our own abilities. I hope the Purple Ember sect won't disappoint me. After saying that, he left. Liu Li and Yun Luoshan were dumbfounded. The three of them never thought that their master would leave just like that. He didn't even try to fight for it. This didn't seem like Longao's character at all. Was the master going to persist or give up and deal with the Purple Ember sect? The three of them didn't stay either. However, if the Purple Ember sect wanted to fight against them, it would be like hitting a rock with an egg. Only Zichuan and Zilin were left in the hall. Their faces didn't look too good. Master, Longao is not a simple person. Not only can he fight against the three super forces, he can even fight against Xingkuan. If he insists on dealing with us, we will be in big trouble. Zichuan nodded. How could he not know what the Great Elder meant? After thinking for a while, Zichuan said, "We can't be sure if the Azura Palace will deal with us. However, rather than submitting to Longao, we might as well submit to the Azura Palace. This way, we might be able to go further in the future." Submit to the Azura Palace? Hearing the master's decision, Zilin was a little dumbfounded. He had never thought about which side he would submit to. His heart was filled with unwillingness. However, Zilin knew clearly that since the master had made his decision, it would be hard for him to change it. In a small town not far from the Purple Ember Peak, the four of them bought a mansion, which could be considered as the temporary headquarters of Longao's branch. Since the people of the Dragon sect, which were the people of the Cloud Valley and the Liu Li sect, had all fallen, although Liu Li and Yun Luoshan didn't say anything, the three of them felt terrible in their hearts. Master, how should we deal with the Purple Ember sect now? The three of them were sure that Longao had given up on subduing the Purple Ember sect and decided to destroy it instead. The three of them didn't have any objections to this decision. If they didn't remove the roots, there would be endless troubles in the future. Moreover, at this moment, the greatest mercy to the enemy was the greatest cruelty to oneself. Zichuan is not a concern. If I'm not mistaken, the Purple Ember sect no longer exists. No longer exists? What did the master mean by that? The three of them were puzzled. They hadn't made a move yet, so they couldn't figure out what would happen to the Purple Ember sect. Could it be that the Azura Palace was going to deal with the Purple Ember sect? Gentlemen, Zichuan should have already submitted to the Azura Palace. At this rate, I believe that it won't be long before the Azura Palace starts to rise up and start to pursue the 10-direction cauldron. Originally, the 10-direction cauldron was peaceful, and could even survive the 3 years of turmoil. However, with the Azura Palace's participation, the turmoil will truly begin. Chapter 1629. Would Zichuan really lead the Purple Flame sect to submit to the Azura Palace? Liu Li and the other two didn't seem to believe it. In the end, just as Longao had guessed, Zichuan led the Purple Flame sect to submit to the Azura Palace. Xingtong was extremely excited. The Azura Palace didn't care about the strength of the Purple Flame sect. Xingtong only cared about the 2 Nirvana Realm warriors. Because of the chaos in the continent, the only ones who could change the situation of the continent were the Nirvana Realm warriors. Not only that, Longao's guess was completely correct. With the addition of 2 Nirvana Realm warriors, the Azura Palace now had a total of 5 Nirvana Realm warriors. Furthermore, there was also a God-ranked array master. Such a terrifying strength, even if it wasn't as strong as the tripod of 10 directions, Xingkuan couldn't wait any longer. Azura Palace. Inside the palace. Old ancestor, are we not going to deal with Longao? Xingkuan shook his head and said with a cold smile, a small Longao, I believe he won't be able to cause too much trouble. Our priority now is to rise quickly. Otherwise, at this point, Xingkuan didn't continue speaking. The strongest person under the heavenly Tao, his strength wasn't afraid of anyone, unless an expert who had reached the peak of the martial Tao personally came. However, Xingkuan had a deep fear. 10,000 years ago, he led the Azura Berserk Scorpion and swept across the continent. He thought he could dominate the continent by himself. But what was the result? He was killed by 10 people. If it wasn't for the fact that he managed to save a trace of his primordial spirit and enter the path of reincarnation, he would have vanished into thin air. Xingkuan kept telling himself that he wouldn't have a second chance. Just like that. Under Xingkuan's leadership, the Azura Palace officially began to rise. No one in the Sky Martial continent had expected this result. Even if they guessed that Xingkuan wouldn't let it go, they didn't expect him to be so anxious. The best result for the tripod of 10 directions was that the chaos wouldn't affect the situation of the continent and the tripod of 10 directions. Such a result was obviously unrealistic. Following the rise of the Azura Palace, the grudges between the tripod of 10 directions exploded like a fuse. That was it. The Long family, the Pill Guild, the Martial Artists Alliance, the Myriad Beast sect, the Heaven and Earth sect, the Five Elements sect, the Wanzhan School, the Sword sect, the Purple Thunder sect, and the Black Heaven sect were all involved in the war. They were the top existences in the Sky Martial continent. Once the tripod of 10 directions started fighting, it would be the true beginning of chaos. The final outcome could already be seen. It could only be described with 8 words: blood flowed like a river and corpses littered the field. In the courtyard. Master, it's just as you've guessed. With the rise of the Azura Palace, the 10 directions tripod has been drawn into the war. Hearing Liu Li's report, Longao was quite surprised. Everything was going as expected. Liu Li, do you have the confidence to pursue the omnidirectional tripod with me? If it was in the past, Liu Li would definitely say no. After all, the 10-directional cauldron and the Azura Palace's strength were obvious. Chasing after the 10-directional cauldron would only lead to death. But now, the situation was completely different. Master, I'll follow you in life and death. It was just 4 simple words, but in Longao's heart, it was enough. Not long after, Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng entered the courtyard one after the other. The 2 of them were also surprised, because everything was predicted by the master. Looking at the confident master, the 3 of them unknowingly chose to slowly believe in Longao. It was a subtle influence. Master, we've already followed your instructions. Within a day, we've subdued hundreds of 4th-rate forces and 30 third-rate forces. Liu Li seemed to be very curious, but she still asked, Master, forgive me for being blunt. Even if we want to pursue the 10-directional cauldron, relying on the 3rd-rate and 4th-rate forces seems like hitting a rock with an egg. I understand. Before the 3 of them could speak, Longao continued, this matter. Before Longao could finish his words, a terrifying airflow suddenly enveloped the world. Feeling this airflow, the 3 of them were shocked. Nirvana rebirth. The 3 of them had never imagined that a Nirvana rebirth cultivator would suddenly descend. No matter what, the number of people in the Tianwu continent who could reach this realm could be counted on one hand. It definitely wasn't Xingkuan, so who could it be? Don't be impatient. Seeing the old man suddenly descend, Longao was very surprised, but he still said, Senior Liu Yi, may I know why you suddenly descended this time? Could it be that something had happened to Aoshue? Longao was very clear that if there wasn't something important, Liu Yi wouldn't casually appear. After all, Liu Yi was the patriarch of the Phoenix race. He was even stronger than the Myriad Beast ancestor. As for whether the strongest person under the heavenly Tao was Xingkuan or Liu Yi, it was unknown, unless the 2 of them truly fought. Nodding, Liu Yi's expression was very grave. He said, something has happened to Aoshue. Come with me. Longao was shocked in his heart. He immediately turned around and looked at the 3 people in front of him. He could not wait any longer and said, during the time that I am away, no matter what happens, all of you must not act recklessly. Yes, Master. Just as the three of them finished speaking, they discovered that the sect master and Liu Yi had already disappeared without a trace. The three of them looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. This was because the three of them had already sensed that the aura on Liu Yi's body came from the Phoenix clan. Without a doubt, the elder who had suddenly descended was the Phoenix clan's current patriarch, Liu Yi. He was also a Nirvana rebirth expert. I really didn't expect that the master would actually know Liu Yi. It seems their relationship isn't ordinary. Let's not speculate too much about the master's matter. The most important thing now is to gather as much information as possible. When the master returns, we will take action. The two of them became stern when they heard Liu Li's words. The three of them knew very well that if they won, their names would be recorded in the annals of history. If they lost, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. As a result, they could only win this battle, not lose. In the void of the 9 heavens, thousands of miles of clouds, the two of them flew in the air. Their speed was so fast that it was as if they were struck by lightning. They couldn't even see their shadows. One could imagine how fast the two of them were. Senior Liu Yi, I want to know what happened to Aoshue. Longao was extremely worried. He originally thought that nothing would happen to Aoshue in the Phoenix race. No matter what, the strength of the Phoenix race was there. Even the dragon race wouldn't dare to casually provoke them. Longao, let me tell you something first. Aoshue is pregnant. She has been pregnant for 2 whole years, but she still hasn't given birth. Chapter 1630. Aoshue is pregnant. Upon hearing this news, Longao was overjoyed. He had never imagined that he would become a father. However, after hearing Liu Yi's last sentence, Longao's surprise instantly stopped. Instead, it was somewhat dignified. Because she was pregnant for 2 years and did not give birth, anyone would know that something was definitely wrong. Nothing must happen to Aoshue. What's going on? Liu Yi was well aware of the relationship between Longao and Aoshue. With a serious expression, she said, I don't know what's going on either. We've tried everything, but we still can't find the reason. This was the truth. The entire Phoenix clan had tried everything, but they still couldn't find out what had happened to Aoshue. Aoshue had the innate Phoenix constitution. She was the hope of the Phoenix clan. Even Liu Yi didn't know what was going on and couldn't find the reason. Longao's expression darkened again. It seemed that Aoshue's situation was troublesome. Otherwise, Liu Yi wouldn't have come all the way here to find him. Just 3 days ago, Aoshue suddenly fell into a coma. Longao didn't say anything. His expression was extremely gloomy. Ever since Aoshue became pregnant, her cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. She has already broken through to the Nirvana realm. She waved her hand. Longao's heart was in a mess. He didn't want to continue listening. The two of them sped up again. Side by side, they turned into 2 black dots and disappeared into the horizon. Phoenix clan. They landed in Phoenix Valley. Birds chirped and flowers bloomed all around. What a paradise. The news of Aoshue falling into a coma didn't spread. Other than Liu Yi and Aoshue's mother, only a few elders knew. Longao and Liu Yi successfully returned to the Phoenix clan. In the cave, Longao, who had just stepped into the cave, saw Aoshue lying on the lotus. After not seeing her for so many years, even Longao's body began to tremble. Inside the cave, apart from Liu Ying and Liu Yi, all 13 elders of the Phoenix clan were present. Without a doubt, all 13 elders were Nirvana realm cultivators. Among them, Grand Elder Liu Bo's cultivation had even reached the Nirvana realm. What kind of concept was that? The Divine Beast clan was one of the 3 supreme clans. Following the fall of Long Tien and the primordial divine dragon, all the Nirvana realm powerhouses of the Dragon clan had been wiped out. Currently, there were about 10 of them. That was indeed the case. Among the 3 great supreme divine beast clans, the Chilean clan and the Phoenix clan's strength far surpassed that of the Dragon clan. Are you Longao? Nodding, Longao said, That's right. I'm Aoshue's mother. He was startled. Looking at the woman in front of him, Longao found that she looked 70% similar to Aoshue. Without any doubt, he bowed respectfully and said, Auntie. Auntie, what's going on with Aoshue? Liu Ying seemed to be very satisfied with her son-in-law. She didn't hide anything and told him everything that had happened. Fainted without knowing anything? Coming in front of Aoshue, Longao tried to release his spiritual power and slowly entered Aoshue's body. Longao did not say a single word for an entire hour after he had carefully checked everything once more. Everyone around looked at each other, not knowing what Longao was doing. Patriarch, you insist on finding this person. In my opinion, it's unnecessary. The one who spoke was the Grand Elder of the Phoenix clan. He was also the second strongest person in the Phoenix clan, second only to Liu Yi. All along, Liu Bo didn't think highly of Longao. He thought that Longao's achievements today were all supported by treasures. His own strength was not worth mentioning at all. Grand Elder, I believe I don't need to say more about Aoshue's importance. You should know. I'm not willing to give up on any method that can save Aoshue. What do you think? Speechless, Liu Bo glared fiercely at the young man standing beside Aoshue and didn't continue speaking. In the dragon seal space. Looking nervously at Xiling and Long Fu, Longao had just checked and found nothing. The only people he could rely on were Long Fu and Xiling. An hour later, Long Fu and Xiling let out a long sigh of relief. Both of them saw a trace of seriousness in each other's eyes. Long Fu said helplessly, Miss Xiling, please speak. Looking at the expressions on their faces, Longao's heart thumped. Could it be that Aoshue's situation was very troublesome? Longao, Aoshue's situation is a bit troublesome. What's going on? He couldn't wait. Longao was extremely depressed. His 3 confidants were all in a coma. Fortunately, Yu Yin woke up successfully. However, Aoshue and Bai Ling were still in a coma. Bai Ling hadn't woken up yet, and Aoshue was in trouble. Longao, I've already examined her just now. According to my guess, the reason why Aoshue fell into a coma was not because of herself. Other than the problem, the most important problem was the child in Aoshue's stomach. Child? What did he mean? Without waiting for Longao to speak, Xiling continued, the child in Aoshue's stomach is a bit special. As for why, I don't know. However, I can clearly sense that the child in Aoshue's stomach has the innate starry sky constitution. It needs to absorb too much energy. Aoshue's own energy isn't enough to support the child. That's why Aoshue is in a coma. Ah! Innate starry sky constitution? Hearing Xiling's words, Longao was shocked. According to Xiling, didn't that mean that Aoshue's child had already started to cultivate in her mother's womb? Was this true? Even though he heard it with his own ears, Longao still couldn't believe it. This was a little unbelievable. This had never happened before. What kind of freak was his child? As if he could guess Longao's shock, even Long Fu and Xiling were a little shocked. They didn't know whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. Xiling, what should I do now? After a deep sigh, Xiling said helplessly, Longao, if you want Aoshue to wake up and this kind of thing won't happen again, and if the child is born smoothly, you have to prepare a huge amount of energy for Aoshue to absorb. Be specific. What kind of energy does Aoshue need? There were many types of energy. Longao didn't know what kind of energy Aoshue needed. As for how much energy Aoshue needed, it wasn't a problem. As long as the mother and child were fine, it was fine. Even if it meant climbing a mountain of swords or diving into a sea of fire, it wouldn't matter. Xiling was actually very unhappy. He didn't know if it was because of himself or because of Bai Ling. However, he knew Longao's personality very well. He was also a man who was loyal to one woman. Once Longao set his mind on a woman, he wouldn't even bat an eyelid even if it meant losing his life. This was Longao. P.S. Yesterday and today, I had fun with my wife for 2 days. I'll update another chapter later. That's all for today. Tomorrow, Little 9 will have a little outburst. I'll work hard to update this month. Everyone, please forgive me. I spent some time with my family on Labor Day. Chapter 1631. Power, soul, primordial spirit, they can all be devoured. He heaved a sigh of relief. According to what Xiling had said, Aoshue was basically fine as long as she devoured enough power. Opening his eyes, Longao looked at Liu Yi and said, "Senior Liu Yi, Aoshue is fine for the time being. I need a lot of power, where can I get it?" "What do you mean?" Longao did not tell the truth to everyone because it was too shocking. He only said, "Aoshue's child is a little strange, causing Aoshue to fall into a coma. As long as Aoshue devours enough power, she can wake up." Hearing this, Liu Yi finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, at this moment, Liu Bo snorted coldly and said unhappily, "Longao, even our Phoenix clan is helpless. Do you think you can do it?" His face was full of contempt and mockery. It was not only Liu Bo, but about half of the elders among the other 12 had the same expression on their faces. Everyone was obviously hostile to Longao, but because Liu Yi was present, they did not act out. Seeing this situation, Longao was not surprised at all because he had already guessed that there would definitely be people in the Phoenix clan who did not like him. If things had gone smoothly, he would not have been separated from Aoshue for so many years. However, since he was already here, he had to take Aoshue away no matter what. Longao had already thought about it. Whether it was Yu Yin or Aoshue, it was safest for them to stay in the Dragon Valley. "You are Longao, this is the great elder of the Phoenix clan." Liu Yi was very worried because Liu Bo's grandson liked Aoshue very much. For the sake of his grandson, Liu Bo did not think highly of Longao. If there was a slight chance, Liu Bo believed that Liu Bo would not let go of Longao and let his grandson and Aoshue become a couple. In Liu Yi's heart, of course, he would like his granddaughter to be with Longao. This was because he knew very well that Longao was able to rise in such a short period of time and contend against the 3 superpowers alone. Longao did not belong to any sect and did not have the best resources, but he was still able to come this far. This was already unprecedented. "Longao, let's go." Nodding, Longao left the cave with the others. As for Liu Ying, she stayed behind to take care of Aoshue. Liu Bo, who walked at the back, looked coldly at Longao who had already left the cave and said to himself, "Since you walked into the trap this time, don't even think about leaving." In the Phoenix main hall, Liu Yi and the 13 elders were all present. Not only that, among the younger generation, Liu Bo's grandson Liu Ri and the second elder's grandson Liu Wuheng were also present. Within the Phoenix clan, the 2 of them were the most talented and powerful. Of course, they were qualified to enter the Phoenix main hall. In the Phoenix clan, as long as the clansmen could break through to the supreme divine realm, they could transform into humans and speak the human language. There's killing intent. Longao was very depressed because he could clearly sense that the 2 young men who had just stepped into the main hall were filled with hostility towards him. It was as if they had a vendetta against him for killing their father. However, one must know that he had just entered the Phoenix clan and did not recognize anyone. "Longao, let me introduce you. This is Liu Wuheng and Liu Ri. Their talent and strength are number 1 in the Phoenix clan. Does it have anything to do with me?" Seeing that Longao did not speak, Liu Yi seemed to have something that was hard to say. However, in the end, he still said, "Longao, since you have already come to the Phoenix clan, there are some things that I have to make clear to you. Regarding the relationship between you and Aoshue, there are many people in the clan who do not agree and have even raised objections." Longao was not surprised at all. However, he still asked, "So what?" "Longao, you are a bit too arrogant." Liu Bo finally could not bear it anymore. He looked at the young man in front of him coldly and said, "Many of us are against it. Moreover, Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng both like Aoshue very much. However, we will not bully you. We can give you a chance." "What chance?" Longao did not get angry. No matter what, the Phoenix clan was still Aoshue's home. Moreover, under such circumstances, he did not want to fall out with the Phoenix clan. Whether it was for the clan or himself, it was not a good thing. "Longao, as long as you can defeat these 2 and the other pursuers of Aoshue and successfully leave the life and death secret realm, we will not stop you and Aoshue from now on. How about it?" "Life and death secret realm?" As for Liu Wuheng and Liu Ri, Longao did not care about them at all. He had already sensed their true strength. They were only peak God Emperor. Among the warriors at the same level, Longao had full confidence. Even if he could not kill them instantly, killing them would be more than enough. Hearing Liu Bo's words, Liu Yi was shocked. His face darkened slightly as he said, "Head Elder, you and I have already agreed that Longao only needs to defeat everyone. Since when is there a life and death secret realm?" Liu Bo smiled and said, "Clan leader, you and I both know what Aoshua means. If we let Longao get Aoshua so easily, many people in the clan will not be convinced. I hope clan leader can accept my suggestion." I hope clan leader can accept the head elder's suggestion. A total of 6 elders said in unison. Liu Yi might be able to refute if it was only the head elder, but if it was a decision made by more than half of the elders, even if he was the clan leader, he had no right to refuse. This was the rule of the Phoenix clan. No matter what happened, as long as more than half of the elders agreed, it would be passed immediately. Longao, are you willing to accept? I am willing. Longao did not hesitate at all. He did not even think about it, because he knew that if he refused, he would be looked down upon by everyone. At that time, even if he could take Aoshua by force, was that something he wanted to see? He wanted to let everyone in the world, including the entire Phoenix clan, know that Aoshua was his woman. He wanted to take Aoshua openly. In that case, after one day, all of you will enter the life and death secret realm. Remember, if you can't handle it, just crush the life and death crystal ball. Then, I will send you out. As soon as he finished speaking, Liu Bo left with everyone. The last one to leave was Liu Ri. He suddenly turned around and sneered, "Longao, I don't care how powerful you are. I just want to tell you that this is the territory of the Phoenix clan, and Aoshua is mine. I hope you can back off. Otherwise, I will not let you leave the life and death secret realm." After speaking, Liu Ri did not stay any longer and left the palace immediately. Only Longao and Liu Yi were left in the palace. Right then, Liu Yi let out a deep sigh and said helplessly, "Longao, you shouldn't have agreed. Life and death secret realm. Even I can't protect you. The head elder is in charge of the life and death secret realm. Even I don't have the right to interfere. Senior, what is this life and death secret realm?" Longao knew what Liu Yi was worried about. It seemed that this life and death secret realm was full of dangers. Otherwise, Liu Yi would not be like this. The life and death secret realm is the place where the great ancestor did his closed-door training. However, the great ancestor refined the life and death secret realm into a life and death battlefield. Countless powerful warriors have died inside the life and death secret realm. Apart from the people of the clan, once an outsider enters, they will die without a doubt. Not only that, the head elder can also launch attacks inside the life and death secret realm. Liu Yi did not continue, because he believed that Longao already knew about the dangers inside. After all, Longao entering the life and death secret realm this time would be very dangerous. Longao did not seem to be worried at all. He said, "Senior, I would like to ask, how many people will enter the life and death secret realm this time? Don't worry, I will suppress the head elder. Nirvana realm warriors will not enter the life and death secret realm. As for how many people Liu Ri will bring, it is not something I can know. I hope you can understand." "Thank you, Senior." Longao could feel that this Phoenix clan leader in front of him, who was also Aoshua's grandfather, was obviously siding with him. Otherwise, he would not have had this opportunity. No matter what, Liu Bo's status was there. As the head elder of the Phoenix clan, Longao believed that Liu Bo's words carried a lot of weight in the Phoenix clan. "Longao, I have already arranged a place for you to stay. Have a good rest." "Thank you." Longao turned around and left, following the servant of the Phoenix clan. "Liu Yi, what do you think of this kid?" Not long after Longao left, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared in the hall. The middle-aged man was none other than the immemorial Qilin of the Qilin clan, a super-existence on par with the immemorial divine dragon. The three supreme clans, immemorial Qilin, immemorial divine dragon, and immemorial phoenix dominated the world of divine beasts at the same time. However, when the immemorial phoenix fell for some reason, it poured all its power into Liu Yi. In addition to Liu Yi's talent, in just 10,000 years, Liu Yi's strength had grown to such a level that it was even above the immemorial Qilin. Apart from Xingquan, Liu Yi could be said to be the real number one under the heavenly law. Before Liu Yi and Xingquan's real battle, no one would know who was stronger and who was the real number one under the heavenly law. This kid's talent is extraordinary. If there are no accidents, he will have no problem reaching the Nirvana realm within a year. Within 3 years, it is not impossible for him to reach our level. However, whether he can break through the bottleneck of Nirvana realm and reach the starry sky realm that no one has been able to reach in 10,000 years is unknown. Starry sky realm. With a deep sigh, the immemorial Qilin said helplessly, "Back then, the heavenly law killed all the starry sky warriors and sealed all the power of the origin, so that none of us can sense the power of the origin. Whether it is swallowing the power of the origin or comprehending the power of the origin, it is already a luxury. If you want to reach the starry sky realm, unless the heavenly law falls." Chapter 1632. Liu Yi's face also turned serious. It was not a secret that the heavenly law had killed all the starry sky warriors and sealed the origin power. If it were not for the heavenly law, there would be many times more starry sky warriors than 10,000 years ago. Without the origin power, everything was nonsense. The immemorial Qilin and Liu Yi had reached the peak of Nirvana realm. Of course, they hoped that they could go one step further and break through the starry sky realm. Liu Yi, since the marvelous mathematician thinks so highly of this kid, it seems that we will have to rely on him in the future. Liu Yi did not speak. The next big question was whether Longao could leave the life and death secret realm alive. At night, Longao sat alone in the courtyard. No one knew what he was thinking in his mind. At this moment, "Auntie, you are here." Seeing Liu Ying coming in from outside, Longao did not dare to continue sitting. Longao did not dare to have the slightest carelessness towards his future mother-in-law. He respectfully bowed and said. She nodded appreciatively. "Longao, is Aoshue really okay?" Until now, Liu Ying was still a little worried because it was the first time she had seen Longao. She could not believe that Aoshue was really okay just because he said that Aoshue was okay. Since things had come to this point, Longao did not want to keep it a secret anymore. After thinking for a while, he decided to tell him everything about Aoshue. After that, Longao continued, "Auntie, I don't want anyone to know about this. It is not good for Aoshue. I hope you can keep it a secret for me. Don't worry about this." After hearing Longao's words, Liu Ying was also shocked. Because she had never thought that the child in Aoshue's belly was a cultivation genius. It was also a freak. Before it was born, it had already started absorbing power. What would happen if it was born? Since Aoshue was fine, Liu Ying was more or less relieved. Liu Yi had already arranged for Aoshue to absorb power. She believed that it would wake up soon. "Longao, I heard that you are going to enter the life and death secret realm tomorrow." It was not a secret, so Longao did not hide it. He nodded and said, "Yes. For Aoshue? I want to be with Aoshue openly." He was somewhat gratified, but more than that, he was worried. As a member of the Phoenix race, Liu Ying naturally knew what life and death secret realm represented. With Longao's strength, entering life and death secret realm would be extremely dangerous. "Longao, I have a divine artifact here. Remember, no matter what happens, you must take it with you." Longao was very curious. He didn't know what kind of artifact his mother-in-law had given him. Liu Ying took out a feather from her bosom. It was multicolored and very beautiful. "This is a divine item that our great ancestor had spent a lot of effort to make. It is called the rainbow feather. After you enter the life and death secret realm, if you run into any danger, this divine item can help you survive. Auntie, if other people know about this, I'm afraid it won't be good." Longao was very clear that he was still an outsider to the Phoenix race. If other people knew, especially Liu Bo and Liu Ri, that Liu Ying had given him a divine item that was left behind by an ancient phoenix, it would definitely bring unnecessary trouble to Liu Ying. Longao knew that with his relationship with Aoshue, Liu Ying was not an outsider. Don't worry about this. You just need to be careful. As for the feather, when you leave the life and death secret realm, it will automatically disappear and return to my hands. Even if someone finds out about it, you don't have to admit it. I believe that no one will dare to question me. So that was it. It seemed that this mother-in-law of his had a high position in the phoenix race. After sending Liu Ying off, Longao put away the feather and was about to take off his clothes and go to bed to prepare for tomorrow's life and death secret realm. However, a human figure suddenly descended from the sky. It was indeed the leader of the phoenix race, Liu Yi, who was also a super powerful warrior who had undergone nirvana rebirth. Senior, I wonder what brings you here so late at night. Longao was very curious. Tomorrow was the opening day of the life and death secret realm. If Liu Yi came at this time, wouldn't it become a topic of ridicule? As if she could see through Longao's thoughts, Liu Yi smiled and said, I heard that Longao was arrogant and didn't put anyone in your eyes. I didn't believe it at first, but after seeing you today, I can see that it's indeed true. Ah, I'm innocent. When did I not put anyone in my eyes? It was a blatant accusation. Without waiting for Longao to speak, Liu Yi continued, Longao, I came this time mainly because I want to ask you something. Senior, please speak. Longao became more and more curious, not knowing what Liu Yi wanted to ask him. During the battle of the sword sect, the clairvoyant master suddenly appeared in the sword sect and sided with you in front of everyone. I really want to know, what is the relationship between you and the clairvoyant master? Why did he side with you so much? Who knows? Hearing Liu Yi's question, Longao said with a helpless expression, to be honest, I also don't know about this matter. It's just that I accidentally stepped into the external ocean and met the clairvoyant master once. As for why the clairvoyant master came to the sword sect and sided with me, I don't know. Looking at the young man in front of her, Liu Yi knew that Longao was not lying. The more so, the more curious Liu Yi was, because she really couldn't figure it out. Even if Longao's talent was better than others, the clairvoyant master wouldn't be like this. After all, the clairvoyant master's identity and strength were there. Not to mention Longao, even Liu Yi himself might not be like this. Longao, do you know about the origin energy? I know. If a Nirvana realm martial artist wants to go further, they need to devour or comprehend the origin energy. Longao didn't know what Liu Yi meant, so he didn't continue to speak. You're right. If it was 10,000 years ago, when the origin energy was sufficient, with my talent, I could completely comprehend the origin energy and reproduce it. But for some reason, all the origin energy on the continent disappeared. Now, not to mention comprehending the origin energy, even devouring the origin energy is a little unrealistic. Longao knew very well that the reason Liu Yi was talking about was because the heavenly Tao had killed all the Starry Sky martial artists and sealed the origin energy. But since Liu Yi didn't want to say more, he didn't ask more. The two of them were well aware of the situation. Longao, although I don't dare to say that your talent won't be surpassed in the future, but it's definitely unprecedented. However, your strength is still very low. If you can break through to the Nirvana rebirth realm, you and I can join forces with the rest of the people and give it a try. If we can really succeed, it's fine even if it's a narrow escape. Chapter 1633. Hearing Liu Yi's words, Longao was shocked. Could it be that Liu Yi wanted to break the seal and forcibly release the origin energy? Or was Liu Yi preparing to break the seal and forcibly devour the origin energy? Longao knew very well that no matter what, as long as the seal was broken, the heavenly Tao would definitely know. The heavenly Tao was an 8th level starry sky cultivator. In the entire Tianwu continent, who could be a match for the heavenly Tao other than the godly mathematician? Senior, forgive me for being blunt. Please speak. The heavenly Tao and the godly mathematician are now in seclusion. I believe they won't come out for 3 years. Liu Yi didn't speak, just listened quietly. Within 3 years, as long as all the Nirvana realm cultivators work together to break the seal, you can completely hide the origin energy. Even the heavenly Tao may not be able to find you. In the vast sea of people, it was easier said than done to find a trace of a person. In an instant, Liu Yi had already understood the meaning of Longao's words. Her expression was very unsightly, and she sighed deeply. Senior, is there a hidden story? Longao, do you really think that the heavenly Tao alone can kill all the starry sky cultivators and seal the origin energy? Was it not the heavenly Tao alone? Longao was not a fool, because in the Tianwu continent, the godly mathematician was the strongest besides the heavenly Tao. Could this have something to do with the godly mathematician? Your guess is right. Back then, if the godly mathematician hadn't incited and helped the heavenly Tao, how could the heavenly Tao alone have done it? Not to mention others, just the sealed Hei Mo in the draconic mystic realm is stronger than the heavenly Tao. He was shocked. After all, from beginning to end, Longao had never considered the possibility that Master God Diviner, other than the Tao of Heaven, had also been involved in the slaughter of all cultivators in the starry sky, and the sealing of essence power. But now that he thought about it, he felt relieved. Without the godly mathematician's incitement and help, the heavenly Tao alone could not have done it. Senior, are you worried? Yes, although the godly mathematician and the heavenly Tao have been in seclusion for 3 years, no one knows whether they are in seclusion or not. If we break the seal and release the origin energy, once this matter is known to the two, the consequences can be imagined. There was only one result, and that was that everyone would die. In front of a starry sky cultivator, a Nirvana realm martial artist was just a joke, a big joke. Under the starry sky, all were ants. If that was the case, this matter would indeed be very troublesome. Senior, do you think it's realistic to count on me for something that none of you can do? He was depressed to the extreme. As the saying goes, there is always a mountain beyond the heavens. The experts in the Sky Martial continent were as numerous as the clouds. Longao knew his own limits. With his current strength, it would be difficult for him to deal with any random Nirvana realm martial artist. That was indeed the case. He really couldn't understand why Liu Yi wanted to find him. Did she really think that he was omnipotent? Longao, I received news that you have Genling's primordial spirit in your body. Is that true? He was startled. Longao knew very well that the WN Shou sect must have spread the news to Liu Yi. Originally, he thought that the WN Shou sect would keep their mouths shut in order to steal Xilin's primordial spirit. After all, once the news got out, there would be an endless stream of people trying to steal it. He didn't expect that the WN Shou sect wanted to kill him with a borrowed knife. What a shameless WN Shou sect. What a shameless WN Shou ancestor. Fuck you. But what Longao couldn't figure out was, did the WN Shou sect ancestor choose to give up? It seemed a little unrealistic. Since that was the case, why would the WN Shou sect ancestor do this? There was no benefit to the WN Shou sect ancestor. Once Genling's primordial spirit fell into the hands of others, it would be even more impossible for the WN Shou sect ancestor to obtain it. Looking at Liu Yi, who was close in front of him, Longao already understood the purpose of Liu Yi's visit. She wanted Xilin's primordial spirit. Longao, you have already guessed my intention. I will also get straight to the point. As long as you are willing to hand over Genling's primordial spirit, I will do my best to facilitate the matter between you and Aoshue. Not only that, from now on, the Phoenix clan will be yours. No one would be able to resist such temptation. But it should be known that the Phoenix clan was one of the 3 supreme clans of the divine beasts. Its strength and foundation were there for all to see. If Longao could dominate the Phoenix clan, then it would be easy for him to enter the Tianwu continent and pursue the 10 tripod. But would Longao agree? There was no doubt about it. He shook his head and said with an extremely firm expression, Senior, to be honest, I do have Genling's primordial spirit in my body. Liu Yi's eyes lit up. When she first received the news, Liu Yi didn't quite believe it. But since Longao said it himself, Liu Yi certainly didn't have the slightest doubt. If she could obtain Genling's primordial spirit, breaking through to the starry sky realm would be just around the corner. For a Nirvana realm martial artist, the greatest temptation was a starry sky cultivator. Senior, no matter what, I will not give you Genling's primordial spirit, even if I die. Why is that? Liu Yi was a little surprised, but not surprised, because Liu Yi had already guessed that Longao would do this. Otherwise, when Longao was in the WN Shou sect, he would have handed over Genling's primordial spirit in order to save his life. Why wait until now to benefit her? But Liu Yi really wanted to know the reason why Longao would do this. Could it be that Longao also wanted to get his hands on Genling's primordial spirit? In any case, the temptation of a starry sky cultivator was too great. Even she couldn't resist it, let alone Longao. Genling's primordial spirit is my wife. Longao was not referring to Xiling, but Bai Ling, because Bai Ling was indeed his wife, and they had already consummated their marriage. Even if it wasn't for Bai Ling, he wouldn't have handed over Xiling. Longao knew very well that for so long, if it weren't for Xiling's help, he wouldn't be sitting here. Longao, in that case, I won't force you. However, the WN Shou sect has already leaked this matter to the world. I'm afraid you will have a lot of trouble in the future. Your current cultivation is only in the Divine Emperor realm. If you want to establish a foothold in the continent and protect your family, you must first raise your cultivation to the Nirvana realm. I understand. Thank you, Senior. Seeing that Liu Yi didn't force him, Longao breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, this was the territory of the Phoenix clan. If they really fought, he would be the one to suffer in the end. What's more, because of Aoshue, he didn't want to fall out with Liu Yi unless it was a last resort. However, Longao still felt a little helpless that the WN Shou sect had leaked this matter. As Liu Yi had just said, now that this matter had been leaked, he would have a lot of trouble in the future. Moreover, they were all Nirvana realm cultivators. If he was careless, he would be doomed. Chapter 1634. What a despicable and shameless WAN Shou sect. Borrowing someone else's knife to kill. Longao was almost certain that WN Shou sect wanted to borrow the power of the world to deal with him. Longao, the life and death secret realm is the place where our ancestor cultivated in seclusion. Although it is extremely dangerous, there are endless opportunities. If you are lucky enough to obtain opportunities in the life and death secret realm, I believe that breaking through to the Nirvana realm will not be a problem. Nodding. After sending off Liu Yi, Longao sat quietly by himself. There were less than 8 months before he could find opportunities to break through to the Nirvana realm. If there was a chance to break through now, should he forcefully suppress it? According to Xiling, his realm was not stable. Even if he broke through to the Nirvana realm, there would only be disadvantages. Not only that, if he could suppress it for 8 months and completely stabilize the peak of the Emperor God realm, once he broke through to the Nirvana realm, there would be considerable benefits. In the distance. In the Phoenix Hall. Seeing that Liu Yi had returned smoothly, the immemorial Chelin could not wait to ask, how is it? Does Longao have Genling's primordial spirit? The starry sky Genling's primordial spirit was the greatest temptation for warriors of their level. No matter who got it, they could smoothly break through to the next realm. Liu Yi shook her head helplessly. Just as the immemorial Chelin sank, Liu Yi suddenly said, I can confirm that Longao does have the starry sky Genling's primordial spirit. Surprise. The immemorial Chelin had an indescribable surprise and said, you and I must not miss this opportunity. I will go find him later. As long as he is willing to hand over the Genling's primordial spirit, I will not hesitate to pay any price. In front of the starry sky Genling's primordial spirit, everything was nonsense. Shaking his head. Brother Chelin, I advise you not to go. Why? The immemorial Chelin was very curious because they had waited for 10,000 years. It was not easy for them to wait for an opportunity. Would they choose to give it up? The power of origin had been sealed by the heavenly Tao. It was almost impossible to devour or comprehend the power of origin. One could not provoke the heavenly Tao. Apart from that, There was only one other way to advance to the Starry Sky realm, which was to devour the Starry Sky essence spirit. Back then, when the Heavenly Tao killed all the Starry Skies cultivators, no one knew where these so-called Starry Skies life essence spirits ended up. Perhaps, they had already been destroyed by the Heavenly Tao. Everyone was very clear. Since the Heavenly Axiom had killed all the Starry Sky cultivators and sealed the origin power, it meant that it didn't want anyone to break through to the Starry Sky realm. If that was the case, why would the Heavenly Axiom cause trouble for him? The primordial spirit Genling was their only chance. The primordial Chelin had already made up its mind. No matter what happened, it had to obtain this primordial spirit Genling. Primordial soul Genling is Longao's wife. With a simple sentence, the immemorial Chelin already knew what had happened. Longao was willing to create havoc for his female confidant. He was not afraid of death, so how could he easily hand over Genling's primordial spirit? Would the immemorial Chelin give up? Brother Liu, you and I have worked hard for tens of thousands of years. Even if you feel guilty towards Aoshue and her daughter, you can't joke about this matter. Seeing that Liu Yi didn't speak and his expression kept changing, the immemorial Chelin secretly thought that there was a chance. Once we miss this opportunity and someone else gets it first, we won't even have the chance to regret it. Brother Liu, even if you and I don't do anything, do you think Longao can save Genling's primordial spirit? Liu Yi gritted his teeth. You're right. As long as I can break through to the Starry Sky realm, I'll pay back what I owe Aoshue and her daughter. He was overjoyed. Chelin, no matter what happens, we have to give Longao a way out, even if it's for Aoshue. No problem. As long as it could obtain the Starry Sky primordial spirit Genling, the immemorial Chelin could give up anything, not to mention not killing Longao. For the immemorial Chelin, Longao's life was not important at all. Brother Liu, shall we do it now? Waving his hand, Liu Yi said, tomorrow, Longao will enter the life and death secret realm. At that time, we'll do it in the secret realm. This way, no one will know. You want to trap Longao in the life and death secret realm forever? The immemorial Chelin was a bit surprised, because if that was the case, then even if it didn't kill Longao, Longao would suffer a fate worse than death. The immemorial Chelin was very wary of Liu Yi because he was too cunning. A moment ago, he was still wavering, but now he was so ruthless. If we don't seal Longao in the life and death secret realm, this matter will definitely be leaked. At that time, even if you and I obtain the Starry Sky Genling's primordial spirit, what can we do? Let's not talk about other people first. Once the Heavenly Tao and the Clairvoyant know about this, do you think they'll let us go? Let's do as you say. Thinking of the Heavenly Tao and the Clairvoyant's terrifying strength, the immemorial Chelin couldn't help but shiver. This matter could not be leaked. Otherwise, not to mention using the Genling's primordial spirit to break through to the Starry Sky realm, it was unknown whether they could survive. Tianwu continent. The WN Shou sect had already spread the news that Longao possessed the peak martial path Genling's primordial spirit. It could be said that in the current Tianwu continent, there was no one who didn't know that Longao possessed the peak martial path Genling's primordial spirit. Those below Nirvana realm might not feel much, because for them, Nirvana realm was already the peak of the martial path. As for the true peak of the martial path, that is, the Starry Sky realm, there was no difference. However, for Nirvana realm experts, the peak of the martial path was a different concept. If they could devour the peak martial path Genling's primordial spirit, then there was a 99% chance that they could break through to the peak of the martial path. That kind of temptation was a huge temptation to every peak martial path expert. The Nirvana realm experts who received the news didn't even care about fighting. For them, this was an opportunity, especially when the Clairvoyant and the Heavenly Tao were in seclusion for 3 years. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they missed it, they would regret it endlessly. It was because of this that all the Nirvana realm experts began to search for Longao's traces. As the saying went, there was no wall in the world that didn't have a crack. After many inquiries, the news that Longao was in the Phoenix race spread. Normally, Even Nirvana realm experts wouldn't dare to casually enter the Phoenix race. That was because the Phoenix race was one of the 3 supreme races of the divine beasts. Their strength was not to be underestimated. But now, the situation was completely different. The primordial spirit sword spirit in Longao's hand was too tempting, especially to the Nirvana realm martial artists. Therefore, after all the Nirvana realm martial artists heard the news, they all stood up and left, rushing towards one of the 3 supreme divine beasts, the Phoenix clan. Chapter 1635. The Thousand Beasts Sect. Ever since Longao caused havoc in the Thousand Beasts Sect, the sect's reputation seemed to have hit rock bottom. If one were to ask who the WN Show sect hated the most right now, it would undoubtedly be Longao. Inside the Thousand Beasts Hall, the Thousand Beasts ancestor looked terrible. He didn't want to leak this information. As long as he could capture Longao, the Starry Sky Genling would be his. Once he got the Starry Sky Genling, he would definitely break through to the Starry Sky realm. But the result? After so long, they still couldn't find Longao, let alone trap Longao. The Thousand Beasts ancestor knew very well that if this continued, not only would they not get the Genling's essence spirit, but Longao would also devour Genling's essence spirit. Once Longao devoured Genling's essence spirit, he would break through to the Starry Sky realm in a few decades. Who in the Thousand Beasts sect would be able to resist Longao then? If they didn't remove the roots, there would be endless trouble. After thinking about it, in the end, the Thousand Beasts ancestor decided to kill with a borrowed knife. He hoped that when Longao died, Genling's essence spirit would also disappear. Taking 10,000 steps back. Even if Genling's essence spirit fell into the hands of others, there would at least be countless people besieging it. The final result would be that whoever got the Genling's essence spirit would die. If that was the case, it would be an opportunity for the Thousand Beasts sect. Watching the fire from the other side and waiting until both sides were injured, the Thousand Beasts sect would be able to reap the benefits. Ancestor, we've just received confirmation that Longao is in the Phoenix clan. He seemed a little surprised. The Thousand Beasts ancestor didn't expect Longao to be in the Phoenix clan. Could it be that Longao had a relationship with the Phoenix clan? With a sneer, the Thousand Beasts ancestor said confidently, if Liu Yi knows that Longao has the Starry Sky Genling's essence spirit, I can say that even Liu Yi can't resist such temptation. Ancestor, are we really going to give up? Grab what you need to grab, and give up when you need to. Don't be so wishy-washy. Although Shifeng and Shichong disagreed with Shifeng's decision, they did not say anything. In the Myriad Beasts sect, no one dared to go against the Myriad Beasts ancestor's words. Although we won't touch Genling's primordial spirit anymore, we still have to watch this show. The 3 of you, come with me. Yes, ancestor. With all the Nirvana realm cultivators of the Myriad Beasts sect heading to the Phoenix clan, apart from the rogue Nirvana realm cultivators, perhaps 85% of the Nirvana realm cultivators in the Tianwu continent had headed to the Phoenix clan. What kind of concept was that? Such a grand occasion had not been seen even once in 10,000 years. The total number of Nirvana realm martial artists heading to the Phoenix clan this time was more than 120. Including the Nirvana realm martial artists from other forces, the Nirvana realm martial artists from rogue cultivators, and the 3 Nirvana realm martial artists from the Dragon sect branch, there were a total of 150 Nirvana realm martial artists rushing towards the Phoenix clan. A total of 150 Nirvana realm warriors. The news of 150 Nirvanas rushing to the Phoenix clan had already spread throughout the entire Sky Martial continent. The entire Sky Martial continent was shocked. Because to be able to attract 150 Nirvana realm martial artists, it was only a small God Emperor realm martial artist, and this person was none other than Longao, who had caused havoc in the Sword sect back then. Longao's name had already spread throughout the world. But now, Longao's name had once again spread throughout the world. Everyone was for Longao. Under the attack of 150 Nirvana realm martial artists, would Longao be able to escape unscathed? Liu Li, Yun Luoshan, and Yun Feng were also rushing towards the Phoenix clan. The three of them chose to submit to Longao. Even though Longao had already attracted more than 140 Nirvana realm martial artists, the three of them did not choose to give up. Liu Li, you're saying that you already know that Master has the martial Dao Peak inheritance. Hearing Liu Li's words, both Yun Luoshan and Yun Feng were greatly shocked. The two of you, if we follow Master, we will definitely be able to pass down our legacy for hundreds of generations. Since things had already reached this stage, what choice did the two of them have? Liu Li, with our strength, we won't be able to help Master when the time comes. Why don't we do it secretly? Maybe we can help Master. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Phoenix Peak. Longao knew nothing about what was happening outside. Although he was very clear that once the news of him possessing Genling's Yuan spirit spread out, it would definitely attract the attention of experts from all over the world. But that was a matter for the future. At the very least, he would have to come out of the life and death secret realm first. If Longao knew that 150 Nirvana realm martial artists had already rushed to the Phoenix clan for him, who knew what Longao would think? The next morning, Longao had already followed Liu Yi to the back mountain of the Phoenix Peak, outside a huge valley. The life and death secret realm had already opened. When Longao arrived, Liu Ri, Liu Wuheng and the rest had already entered. In this way, even if Longao was a fool, he would be able to see that something was amiss. Longao, I hope you can come out alive. Looking at Liu Bo in front of him, Longao sneered in his heart. He had already guessed that once he entered the life and death secret realm, Liu Bo would not easily give up on him. However, since things had already reached this stage, he would not back down. Senior, I'm going in. Be careful. Liu Yi's face was expressionless, but he was sneering in his heart. He and the immemorial Chelin had already decided that as long as Longao entered the life and death secret realm, everything would be under his control. At that time, as long as he could obtain Genling's Yuan spirit, Longao would stay in the life and death secret realm forever. Liu Yi had already received the news that 150 Nirvana realm martial artists had already rushed over. If he was discovered by these Nirvana realm martial artists, it would be very difficult for him to obtain Genling's Yuan spirit. No matter what happened, he had to deal with Longao before the 150 Nirvana realm martial artists arrived. Seeing that Longao had already entered the life and death secret realm, Liu Bo said, Patriarch, I really don't understand why we have to help Longao. If this matter were to spread out, I'm afraid our Phoenix race would become the laughingstock of the world. Phoenix race, as one of the three supreme races of divine beasts, had never had such a thing happen before. Even with Liu Ying and Ao Tian, the Phoenix race did not have the slightest tolerance. Because of this, Liu Bo really could not understand why the Patriarch would choose to compromise this time. Could it be that he really valued Longao's talent? With a smile, Liu Yi suddenly said, First Elder, what you said just now is very right. Such a thing cannot be allowed to happen. What? What did the Patriarch mean? Before Liu Bo could react, Liu Yi had already continued, this time, Longao has entered the life and death secret realm. No matter what you do, don't let him come out. Send 4 Nirvana realm martial artists in. Remember, don't kill him, just seal him. Chapter 1636. Liu Bo was curious. Leader, why do we need to do this? We just need to seal the secret realm. I believe Longao won't be able to break the seal. Liu Bo was very confident about this. This time, I want nothing to go wrong. Before Liu Yi could finish, immemorial Chelin's figure appeared. Brother Chelin, what are you here for? Brother Liu, I think it's better for you and me to enter the secret realm. This way, nothing will go wrong. Ah! Liu Bo couldn't figure out why immemorial Chelin would suddenly appear here. Could it be that the leader wanted to team up with immemorial Chelin to deal with Longao? After thinking for a while, Liu Yi nodded. Inside the secret realm, Longao stepped into the secret realm and found that it was almost the same as the outside world. There were sky, earth, trees, grass, and even spirit and divine beasts. Kill. Only 2 people had entered the secret realm this time, Liu Wuheng and Liu Ri. Longao was curious why only 2 people had entered the secret realm. According to Liu Yi, Liu Bo should have at least 10 people besides Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng in order to deal with him. Was there something fishy going on? Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng were both peak God Emperor warriors. They had just stepped into the secret realm and hadn't even stabilized themselves. With a stride, their bodies had already shot out. The 2 attacked from the left and right. They didn't dare to be careless. Under normal circumstances, Longao wouldn't be afraid of God Emperor warriors. However, Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng were different. They were both phoenixes, and their strength was already very strong. As expected, the 2 seemed to know that Longao's situation was a bit special. Even if they didn't put Longao in their eyes, they didn't dare to be careless. Otherwise, they wouldn't have transformed into their true forms. Phoenix cries rang out. Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng transformed into their true forms, and 2 huge phoenixes appeared in the void. 1 against 2. Longao waved the reincarnation sword in his hand, and rays of reincarnation sword light shot out. Ha ha ha, Longao, I want to see if you are as powerful as the legends say. He was a little surprised. Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng's phoenix true form, one spat out fire, the other spat out profound ice. The 2 heavens of ice and fire actually forcefully merged together. Ice and fire were irreconcilable. They were originally 2 completely opposing forces, but now they were actually fusing together. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. Boom! The power of ice and fire quickly spread. Longao retreated again and again. If it weren't for his teleportation ability, he would have been covered by the power of ice and fire. The consequences would have been unimaginable. If it was just a single power of fire, or a single power of profound ice, Longao would definitely not be afraid. The power of the fusion of ice and fire was not as simple as 1 + 1. The 2 of them were too fast. Longao was almost engulfed by the power of ice and fire even with the help of spatial teleportation. Going on like this was not a solution. How should he deal with this? The reincarnation sword light was actually unable to break through the power of ice and fire. This was also why Longao was shocked. Not daring to be careless, Longao directly used Sorrow of Heaven and Earth. With himself as the center, the vortex of air started to spin rapidly. In a short while, the vortex of air started to spin faster and faster. He had to admit that Sorrow of Heaven and Earth was very powerful. The power of ice and fire was sucked into the vortex of air. In addition, Longao's air shield was destroyed. No matter how many came, it would all be destroyed. Even so, if this continued, he would definitely lose. As expected of the Phoenix clan, Longao was almost certain that Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng coming to deal with him was completely premeditated. Otherwise, how could the power of ice and fire be able to fuse together? He cursed in his heart. Longao cursed the 18 generations of ancestors of Liu Bo and the others. Looking at Longao, who had been enveloped by the vortex of air, Liu Wuheng and Liu Ri looked at each other. They saw a trace of surprise in each other's eyes, but more importantly, they were depressed. In their opinion, as long as they joined forces, the power of ice and fire released would definitely be able to burn Longao to death. The result? In just a few minutes, Longao was able to withstand it. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe. The Patriarch and the Great Elder had once said that if the 2 of them were to fight alone, they would probably encounter someone stronger than them. However, once the 2 of them joined forces, the power of ice and fire would fuse together. Under Nirvana, they would be invincible. Longao was indeed powerful. You and I must kill him in one blow. The 2 of them simply fused the power of ice and fire. They hadn't used their ultimate move yet. The 2 of them were full of confidence. As long as they released their ultimate move, even if Longao had 3 heads and 6 arms, he wouldn't be able to withstand their joint attack. However, at this moment, in the vortex of air, Longao had already disappeared. The 2 of them were a little dumbfounded, because they never thought that Longao could disappear under their eyes. Chase. Of course, The two of them wouldn't give up, because Longao was too much of a threat to them. Now that the Patriarch supported Longao, whether the two of them would be able to obtain Aoshue was still unknown. Just as the two of them chased, Longao's figure appeared out of thin air. This time, Longao didn't leave, but directly entered the dragon seal space. Longao had full confidence in the power of the dragon seal. Not to mention the two of them, even if a Nirvana realm martial artist was here, even a Nirvana realm martial artist might not be able to break the seal of the dragon seal and enter the dragon seal space, giving them a taste of their own medicine. Longao wasn't someone easy to deal with. For a long time, Longao had always had a principle, and that was, if people didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. If people wanted to offend him, he would definitely offend them. Since Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng wanted his life, then he wouldn't be polite. It was still the same sentence: the greatest kindness to the enemy was the greatest cruelty to oneself. This kind of thing, Longao would definitely not happen to himself. Instead of chasing, Longao directly chased after them. As for immemorial Chelin, Liu Yi, and the others, they were about to enter, but they helplessly found that more than 150 Nirvana realm martial artists had all arrived. He had to think of a way to deal with this matter, otherwise, it would be a devastating blow to the Phoenix race. Otherwise, once immemorial Chelin, Liu Yi, and the others entered the Life and Death Secret Realm, it would be really troublesome. Life and Death Secret Realm itself was an independent space. In the past, the immemorial Phoenix had spent hundreds of years to construct a Life and Death Secret Realm. It was also because of this Life and Death Secret Realm that the immemorial Phoenix wanted to use to break through to the Starry Sky Realm. However, in the end, not only did it fail to break through to the Starry Sky Realm, but it also died in the Life and Death Secret Realm. Chapter 1637. Phoenix Peak. The surroundings were filled with Nirvana realm martial artists. Looking over, there were at least 100 of them. If this were any other time, would it be possible to gather 100 Nirvana realm martial artists at the same time? It was almost impossible. Brother Liu, there are a total of 150 Nirvana realm martial artists outside. If we were to enter the Life and Death Secret Realm now, we might be taken advantage of by them. Liu Yi nodded. Liu Yi's face was dark as well. He knew clearly that if this matter was not resolved properly, the entire Phoenix race would be in trouble. Out of the 150 Nirvana realm martial artists, there were a total of 11 Nirvana realm martial artists, including Old Master Wan Beasts and Xing Kuan. Within the Life and Death Secret Realm, Longao was chasing after the two of them. From the beginning till the end, neither of them knew that the target they were searching for was right behind them. Boom, boom, boom. Just then, suddenly, the sound of thunder resounded between heaven and earth. Dark clouds gathered in the void of the 9 heavens as huge thunderclouds gathered. Liu Bo had full control over the Life and Death Secret Realm. With that, Longao's danger had increased tremendously. I've been locked in. Longao was very shocked, because he realized one thing, and that was that he had already been locked onto by the thunderclouds of the 9th heaven. Once he moved, he would probably die. Longao, let's see how you're going to leave the Life and Death Secret Realm. Kill. Longao did not hold back at all. Even though he was locked in and could not move, his reincarnation body was not. In the next second, the reincarnation body dashed out. Ignoring the battle, Longao had full confidence in his reincarnation body. Even if it was 1 against 2, the reincarnation body could kill both of them. As for the power of ice and fire, would the reincarnation body care? Crack. Before Longao could react, a bolt of lightning suddenly shot out from the space. It was as thick as a tree trunk. Huh! Longao was a bit dumbfounded because he had never thought that the lightning would not come from the sky, but from the surrounding space. It was truly impossible to guard against. The power of lightning struck Longao squarely, causing him to fall to the ground. If it weren't for the fact that his body's defense had reached a terrifying level, Longao would have died by now. What a terrifying power of lightning. Longao's face was slightly pale as he forcefully blocked the attack. If Liu Bo knew about this, Who knew what Liu Bo would think? It was unbelievable and unimaginable. Before Longao could regain his footing, the sound of thunder grew louder and louder. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, countless bolts of lightning shot out from the surrounding space. The density of the bolts was terrifying. His scalp felt a little numb. Holding the reincarnation sword in his hand, Longao used the reincarnation sword skill and beams of reincarnation sword light shot out. Longao's body began to spin. Gradually, the reincarnation sword light began to form a sword light chi shield. The reincarnation sword light that could break through the forbidden power could also block the lightning attacks. He had to think of a way. The power of lightning had the ability to lock down space. Not only could Longao not teleport, he could not even enter the dragon seal space. A person's physical strength was limited. Even if the reincarnation sword light could temporarily block the lightning attacks, it was still not a solution. Once Longao's physical strength was exhausted, he would be devoured by the lightning. Finally, without a choice, Longao could only try to activate the reincarnation heavenly eye. Although he knew that the reincarnation heavenly eye was definitely not ordinary, Longao would not use it under normal circumstances. Suddenly, a third eye appeared on Longao's forehead. A black light shot out and collided with the power of lightning. The power of lightning was directly devoured by the reincarnation heavenly eye. Seeing this situation, Longao was overjoyed. It seemed that the reincarnation heavenly eye could destroy the power of lightning. If that was the case, everything would be much easier. Longao's reincarnation heavenly eye was derived from the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique. Like teleportation, it belonged to the 9 revolutions reincarnation technique. However, the power of the reincarnation heavenly eye was above teleportation. I can actually move. Under the cover of the reincarnation heavenly eye, Longao found that his body that was locked by the lightning was actually able to move at this time. He was overjoyed. Not daring to have the slightest hesitation, Longao immediately took a step forward and left the lock of the lightning at the fastest speed. It took him a full 3 minutes to leave the lightning and get rid of the lock of the lightning. The thunderclouds disappeared and the sky was clear as if nothing had happened just now. All of a sudden, looking at the 2 corpses on the ground in front of him, Longao was a little shocked. Because he never thought that the reincarnation clone could successfully kill Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng in such a short time. This speed was a little too shocking. Nirvana realm. Sensing the aura of the reincarnation clone, Longao was extremely shocked. Because the reincarnation clone was only at the peak God Emperor realm just now, the same level as him. Why did the reincarnation clone smoothly break through the peak God Emperor realm and reach the Nirvana realm in just 3 minutes? Although it was only the first of the 5 Nirvana realms, which was to comprehend the heaven and earth. What exactly happened? Even Longao was a little confused at this time because the reincarnation clone's cultivation had broken through too quickly. It happened in an instant. A purple figure appeared. It was Xiling. Longao, what's the origin of your clone? It's simply unbelievable. Originally, Longao didn't want to tell Xiling about the Longao's matter. However, at this time, he didn't continue to hide it and roughly told him everything. So that's how it is. According to my guess, if nothing goes wrong, your reincarnation avatar was able to break through from the peak God Emperor realm to the Nirvana realm in just a few minutes. Otherwise, unless your cultivation can break through to the Nirvana realm, I'm afraid your reincarnation avatar won't be able to do so by itself. I see. Of course, Longao wouldn't doubt Xiling's words. However, he didn't expect that Liu Ri and Liu Wuheng, who had entered the life and death secret realm to kill him, would end up losing the rice used to lure him. Instead, they were killed by the reincarnation clone. Not only that, he should also thank the 2. Because with the reincarnation clone's cultivation base breaking through, Longao was full of confidence. With his current strength, not to mention comprehending the heaven and earth, even warriors who were one with the world wouldn't be able to escape from his hands once he joined the reincarnation clone. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't excited. However, under such circumstances, Longao really couldn't feel excited. Although he had already dodged the lightning attack, who knew what dangers were waiting for him? You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.